I haven't been following, but
So-
I have
I'm
friends.
sorry, it's 7 o'clock.
Oh,
So
yep.
seeing that it's 7 o'clock, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'd like to recognize that Chelmsford Telemedia is broadcasting the meeting tonight. And if there's anyone else in the audience that's recording, you'll let us know. Seeing none. We'll start our meeting like we start all of our meetings with public input. Does anybody have any input that they'd like to share? Seeing none. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from October 4th and November 1st. Did everyone have a chance to review those? Are there any changes or comments on any of those from anyone?
No,
didn't
not
have
for me. I
anything.
didn't notice.
I had one question, but
Yeah.
I don't
I have pronounced it. That's
have them in front of me. Or if I do, I have so many pages open, I can't find them.
Yes, there are many pages.
Do you have them open? Oh,
Yeah.
no, I have it, I found it.
I mean, I have printed.
It was at the very end, and it was, sorry.
It's okay.
If someone else wants to talk about something else for a second, I will find it, or if this is, we just have to,
We have to wait because no one can move to accept the minutes until,
okay. I give up. I can't find it. Sorry.
It's okay. Do you want to, we can table this and come back to it if you want.
If you want to table it, and I'll skim while
End of
we
the
talk.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll table it till the end of the meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yep.
So the first big item on our agenda, and I'd also like to point out to the folks watching at home that the presentation that we'll be going through tonight, as well as the draft RFP and all the other documents that we have, are available at robertsfield.org, so you can follow along there. The first agenda is the RFP. Steve, would you want to come sit up here with us so we can talk through it? I know. So, how do you guys want to handle this? So Steve provided a draft RFP, and then we had the scope document that we reviewed last time. Do you think it would be beneficial to go through to use the scope, Steve's draft as sort of the baseline, and then make any comments or recommendations based off of that?
Yeah, this is Steve's draft
Yeah,
right
I
here,
think we
right?
should
Yeah,
use
let's just
Steve's
do that.
Okay.
and also, I don't have nearly as much to add as you've put in as possible. Because these things are supposed to be concise.
Okay, so this is the RFP. Is there any background information that you want to share to kind of start this off, or do you want us just to kind of start giving you comments?
No, I mean, it pretty much is what it is. We've run it through all the channels at DPW, so the gist of it is still there. Modified a little bit of stuff, but nothing really technical. So whatever you want to do.
Okay. Does anybody want to start off with comments first? We'll just kind of go at it that way. First page?
Yeah, we can work through. I mean, I didn't have any comment on the first
Yeah,
page.
first page.
First page looked good to me.
I'm looking for my first page.
Wanna look at this one? Or did you have notes on it?
No, there was nothing on the first page because it's all history.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what I thought.
history and just some dates. I mean, a lot of it is standard stuff. I mean, really, I think the only stuff that you guys should, think about commenting on is the design considerations, maybe the minimum equipment, and then we get into the scope of work if there's anything. I know, Bill and I went back and forth a little bit yesterday, and there were a couple of things that I just missed, so I added stuff in.
Yeah, just to clarify, so I highlighted in red on the scope just some of the stuff that I thought was missing on it, and we can look at that if you guys
Yeah,
want to
I
as
mean,
well.
like I said, I don't know if you saw my email today, I think a lot of that stuff is kinda in there, just maybe worded a little different or in a
Right.
different place, so, whatever.
The only thing I had on page 2 was under the minimum equipment requirements,
Mm-hmm.
the picnic tables. I thought you had mentioned that the DPW could get those cheaper, or was I mistaken on that? The picnic tables, remember we talked about like this, the actual playground supplier wouldn't
I
supply the
think-
playgrounds, but
I
we would
think-
get them?
That might have been Gary, and I think comment might have been like the benches and stuff. I know we can certainly, like, some of the fringe stuff, trash barrels, things like that, we will
Yeah,
certainly get.
Bike racks, I think, are mentioned.
Yeah,
bike racks.
yeah, through
But
the
this-
process, stuff like that can come from different places and we can get
Yeah.
them.
But the spaces for them need to be designed in.
Yeah,
but this is
no.
just this is furnishing, so this is the actual picnic table, so it says, so the
And
company
s-
that goes to bid on this is
right.
gonna have to supply us with 4 picnic tables.
Right, and just to, explain it a little bit,
Yeah.
what will happen here is people will come and show us their line of product.
Mhm.
So we might decide that instead of us flipping through a calendar, listen to me, catalog, it's been a long week.
Yeah.
And picking benches we think will try to match, they might have, a line of playground equipment and a line of benches, picnic tables
Okay.
that kind of blend in with it all.
Mhm.
So that's why it's in there. When we get the contract stage, maybe we can pull
Maybe.
it out or have it be an alternate in the contract or something like that.
Okay,
That's easy enough.
okay. And then the benches, I didn't know if we were doing like, gonna have, I know we have to figure out how we're gonna do the fundraising thing, but I was thinking for fundraising, we were gonna do the carved benches. So do we need to, again, have those in here if we're gonna try to have them donated or something like that? And then the poster board, or posting board, I thought that might be like a good project for the Eagle Scouts or something like that, but
Yeah,
again,
it's more or less like
it's,
a kiosk that you see at any of the
Yeah,
conservation properties.
yeah, and it's
or-
small dollars, it's not a big part of the
No,
fee,
it's-
but I was just curious.
Yep.
The benches could still be supplied by the, I assume we could still do it as a fundraising thing and say the bench cost X amount of the park. So we have those benches, it's just that bench is then would have a plaque or something on it.
Okay.
So we could
Yeah,
order
and that's-
4 benches and then say, we have 4 benches, if anyone would like to
Sponsor or whatever.
sponsor
Yeah,
these
and
benches
that
and get a
happens a
plaque.
lot with the bike trail. There's actually a couple people that have just donated benches. They're on order now. They should be coming in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
That, we offer up vendors and they'll go direct and then it ships to us and there's,
Mhm.
plaques and things like that. So something like that could definitely work when you
Okay.
get into, the fundraising end of it.
All right.
I had a couple of small things for this page. Under all the bullet points, structure should be plural, structures,
Right.
Oh, yeah, there were,
design considerations. Structure should be structures.
Mhm.
In the third item, we had looked at some things that had padding and then mats for the fall area. So what I thought to add is ground within certain limits of the playground are to be constructed with poured-in-place surfacing or similarly performing product. This,
Oh, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yep.
So like
Yeah, which-
resilient fall materials versus, so that way it doesn't limit the designer to just poured in place.
Yep.
right,
that's a good point.
Which,
could bring down our cost.
I was gonna say, is that the only place where port in place is specified? Because I thought it was somewhere.
No, I'm sure it's someplace else.
Because I agree, I think there's, I've been looking into surfaces a bunch, just because I got off on a tangent looking into surfaces, and, I think there might be some benefits to putting turf in some places, because it brings down the overall, because it's a less reflective surface, it makes it cooler in the playground to play on than, the sort of glare type level thing you'll get from port in place. Plus, it kind of would, at least from a distance, go more with the natural theme of kind of looking like grass. Plus, and I have no idea, but it seems like it is a lesser maintenance deal than,
I guess it just depends on, if it's like the fields, it depends on what the infill material is.
yeah, so I know I can,
You
I don't
need-
have
it-
this accessible to everyone, but, I found this thing which has a comparative,
Mhm.
safety and cost for the
Mhm.
different things that, turf was right up there with the port in place, but cheaper.
A lot of times with turf, though, you need some kind of drainage system under it, like the
Okay.
football fields and on a small scale like this, can't
Yeah.
really speak intelligently on it, I suppose, but
And
I
then
know
there's
the
also,
fields is a giant drainage system underneath them.
okay, there's also rubber mats,
Yeah,
and
that was-
tiles, which is,
And then
Think-
the shredded rubber stuff too, the bonded rubber as well. So I
Yeah.
guess the point is just that if we can keep it open, so the designer has the leeway to use whatever surfaces,
Yeah, I can-
surfaces they thinks make sense.
because I will say, something I was reading about having bonded chip, or engineered chips, or any of the chip type, or broken up surfaces, is you have the concerns about kids putting them in their mouths, and that it's a higher, either kids or people with developmental disabilities, that you have more of a,
Yeah, I mean, if you're
Concerns
thinking
about-
something like the crumb rubber or something at South Road School, we would never put that in another playground. We're actually gonna be taking that out. So,
yeah. Oh, even the engineered wood chips, I don't know, based on some of the stuff I was reading, that it's,
I like the idea of keeping it open-ended to see what
Yeah.
a designer
Yeah, I mean,
comes
I
up
can-
with the costs
so.
and we
Agreed.
can
Yeah, let's look.
then compare it, yeah.
I can write some kind of sentence like, other,
Or similar.
yeah, or
Yeah.
similar surfacing, other,
Right.
you could
yeah.
give,
Let's
you
just see
could
what the
say,
recommendations are.
Yeah.
you could say poured in place, turf, et cetera, or like,
Similarly performing product.
I saw it referenced as resilient fall materials in a couple of different ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That is,
That may be an
yeah.
industry term.
that's easy.
Yeah, there you go.
And my biggest changes are to the 5th paragraph.
Yep.
Because it's not only universal design that we want, it's also inclusive play.
Yep.
So ADA compliant is not the standard we're using.
So,
ADA compliant only addresses that one child. Can they use it? It does not say, can they use it with a friend?
yep.
And
Well,
all,
so
so,
ADA compliant and inclusive is
well,
probably-
I was
right.
going to start with,
after
inclusive-
universal design.
well, either before or after, just add inclusive play techniques should be utilized to ensure play. A target of 70%, not 50%, is what,
We're gonna battle you on that one.
well,
Because I thought we talked about that last time, right? And if we decided on that, then it would limit the structures that other kids could use, such as,
well, not
climbing.
completely,
I
no.
think she said 100% last time, and we
Yeah.
disagreed with that, but
The
50%
number
is
that
kind
we
of a-
discussed was 50% last time, and
Yeah, 'cause
Lori
industry standard is like
McMadden or McMarron from the CPAC and I spent the afternoon researching this. And the articles that mention specific percentages for inclusive design say 70% of the overall and 50% of the climbing structure.
Okay. Well, I'll make a note.
Because that means there are fewer barriers for kids being able to play together.
That's consistent with what I read as well.
Yeah. That's-
And I think most playgrounds are probably, what, like 25%?
Yes.
So.
Probably, yeah.
It's a,
It's standard is like 25 to 30.
right, so,
So Nick was deciding to shoot for 50, thinking that it was, so what was it again, 70?
70% for the playground overall,
Mm-hmm.
and 50%
structure,
of
that's
any
it.
climbing structure.
I have one more comment on surfaces, and I don't know if this applies to structures as well, but back on surfaces, sorry. If we do turf, or I don't know much about the port in place, whatever, I think we should, if you can put in something to clarify, I know there have been concerns about lead in turf, we should probably, I think it would be good to make sure, I don't know if they're, I don't know, LEED certified or whatever you want to do in terms of making sure that they're environmentally, so our kids aren't playing on toxic materials. I mean, however you want to put that.
And that's it for me for this page.
So let's see, mine, for the first paragraph, where it talks about the larger area for the newly reconstructed playground, I think we should add in maximum
Yeah.
available area, So it's clear that we've got that 40,000 square feet set aside, but we're not saying that they have to take up that full 40,000 square feet. You know what I mean?
Instead of approximately, say, maximum of?
No, where it says, the master plan committee has also identified a larger area for the newly reconstructed playground of approximately 38,000 square feet. It's really a possible maximum area,
Right.
right? They shouldn't just try to fill, the designers shouldn't
Yeah,
just try
yeah.
to fill it.
Yeah, I can put,
Maximum available.
yeah.
And to be determined in the final design, right? So that's really up to the designer to decide how much of that they're gonna take. Just from the feedback from the public, I think it's important to put in that we're expecting there to be, the equipment and the materials would be long-lasting, require minimal maintenance, and be fully warranted.
Yeah,
That's in there somewhere.
I think it's in the end.
Yeah.
Okay. On the landform play area bullet, I think it's the fourth bullet. It's really landform play areas, right? I mean, we're not designating that it's just gonna be one area. It could be more than one. We budgeted for 3. I don't know if we'll use all 3, but at least that was the,
yeah.
That was the
I'll just
budget.
put in, some parentheses, areas type of thing.
and, it may be nitpicking, but, it's keeping it separate or keeping it segregatable. I don't know what the right word is, but keeping it so that the landforms can be sort of closed off so it can be maintained. Not necessarily separate, because separate could be
Yeah,
across the park, you know what I mean? I don't want them to get the wrong idea.
yep.
And then on the third to last, the existing trees within the playground should be saved and incorporated if possible. We need to incorporate the tree protection guidelines in there.
Yep.
On the minimum equipment requirements, on the budget, we had 6 benches, metal, 6 metal benches, and.
Yeah, I mean, let me backtrack on that just a little bit on the minimum equipment. Nick and I went out there Monday, and I know the previous committee did obviously the heavily detailed counting every nut and bolt, basically. We just basically counted everything. Knowing full well that the stuff you sent me, I was gonna include anyway, that, in one of the, attachments in the back, just as a reference. I figured to pick some of the master plan stuff out. So basically, we just stood there and counted. There's 4 benches in there, there's 4 picnic tables in there, so that was kinda how we generated that. If you want me to change it, it's easy enough.
Well, I think it's important to keep it consistent with the budget that we've been presenting. You know what I mean? I think if we can keep the numbers consistent, I think it'll make it easier down
And the
line.
master plan details, since that's in,
Yeah, well, like I say, that was gonna go in the back.
And it
I'm
may-
not gonna load that all in the middle of this thing.
yeah.
Right.
We, like we put in the budget for, I think it was two 12 by 12 playground shade structures.
Yeah, that was one of the things I modified, minimum of 1, but not more than 2.
Or covered seating. So we tried to build in the original budget so that there was that flexibility that if the designer came in and said, you know what, 1 would be better, and then just provide some shade over some benches and maybe a toddler area.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to do.
So what is, you had 6 benches?
Yeah, there's 6 metal playground benches and 2 playground shade structures.
Yep, yeah, I got the shade thing.
And we actually we didn't include a cost for the picnic tables in the original budget. So it was just, we were gonna reuse those, but after looking at those, they're gonna have to be, they're gonna have to be redone.
That would be pretty sad. Everything else new. And
Yeah, they're-
Yeah.
They're sitting there.
Hillbilly picnic table.
Out of
Yeah.
$100 for your picnic table.
we had to cut costs somewhere.
But check out the slide.
My only other comment was in the history, if it would be possible to sort of play up the universal design, inclusive design of the playground.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I mean, the last paragraph in there, I have universal design.
Because, I mean, honestly,
I'll just add
the old playground isn't gonna really drive the design of the new playground per se, right? So, I mean, it's important that we have the history, the documentation in there, but
Or inclusive play, I'm gonna call it design, inclusive play. Yep, go ahead.
Do we want to include something in the design considerations for sensory type activities?
I think so. I think that's a good, that's a big part of a lot of the universal design, inclusive play for people with different, I mean, inclusive play is not just for people who are in wheelchairs or physically disabled, it's for people who have, you know, on the autistic spectrum or whatever, and different sensory things, and inclusive.
Like touch walls and musical
Yeah.
instruments and stuff.
I know that's a big thing in a lot of the stuff I was finding.
I don't know if that fits in the design considerations or if that fits into the specifics of the areas.
Probably in the bullet with the universal design, inclusive play, and the
Sensory.
percentage,
And sensory play.
And sensory play.
you know, I can write, you know, to include sensory,
I don't think there's anywhere in here, and I know we haven't really talked about this, but the more I was looking at things, I'm wondering, I mean, this is supposed to be nature themed, and we're, you know, trying to include nature stuff, and we have nothing about, like, environmentally friendly anything or recycled anything written into this, and I don't know whether, I don't know how everyone else feels about it, it's a whole,
Well, I guess the question is, are we going to limit them to only using recycled materials or that
no,
sort of
but
thing?
if, I
or
think it would be beneficial to include it as something that we.
preferable, maybe?
Yeah, like some mention of it, so it's indicative of, it would be something we'd kind of, you know, strive towards, not necessarily like everything has to be 100% post-recyc, whatever, but I think
mean, it's-
it would fit with the theme, the nature theme, to have it be environmentally, keep environmental consciousness as part of the expected considerations of
Or
design.
use of recycled materials preferable or something like that, or,
Good
Yeah.
environmental practices,
And-
whatever.
right.
Along with the, you know, in terms of the non-toxic, there's a variety of, you know, surfaces and rubbers and whatever can be made out of a variety of things, and I think it would be good to,
And during, I think, you know, during the
Add
process
something.
of reviewing the responses, we would be able to find that out.
right, but if
probably, right?
if we put some mention of it
They'll be more
in the
prepared.
RFP,
Mhm.
it will be more likely to be
I know
Used.
presented to
most of
us.
the larger manufacturers do have certain percentages of most of their equipment that has, you know, the certain things that can be.
Right, I mean, there are limitations everywhere, I just,
Sure. No, that's, I mean, that's, if it's the wish of the group, I can certainly write something like that, that's not a problem.
I found out something in all this reading that I didn't know, and that is that plastic slides can wreak havoc with cochlear implants. Apparently, you
Static.
get the static charge, and they can either cause white noise, or they can cause the device to completely shut off and
Yeah, so
erase part of its memory.
that would be a massive ESD.
And the parents would have to go to the audiologist and have it all reloaded and refixed every time. So, what several places I read about were doing were these roller slides, kind of like, they're like the conveyor belt type
Yeah.
stuff that have the rollers.
There's
And-
one at Center School, I think.
Okay, and they're metal. And so I was
Some
thinking
combination of
about of
slides.
some combination that, you know, one slide in each area be,
Cochlear ear friendly.
yes.
Not going to give you a massive electric shock effectively is what it, I'm an electrical engineer and we have to worry about ESD all the time and I can totally see how they would cause a
Or
to the electronics.
3 or 4 years ago, there was an anti-static coating manufacturer for the airlines was starting to experiment with using them on the slides. I could not find anything else about it since.
Maybe there were chemical toxicity problems
So
with
can we,
it.
are you saying that, should we put a design consideration bullet point as cochlear ear sensitive? Is that what it is, cochlear ear
What
sensitivity?
I think
about
it's
one
static.
non-plastic
I think just
slide?
right,
I think you just need, it's a static sense, it's an
electrostatic.
static discharge problem, is an ESD problem. But I know there's metal slides, I think, at Joey's playground, based on what I was looking at. So I think there's a variety, I think, of slides that are currently being.
So an accommodation for electrostatic discharge, children who suffer from that, can we add that as a design consideration?
Children who'd be affected by that. Yeah.
We have a lot,
But couldn't we just
As
kind
a-
of make that easier?
Yeah,
And
I
get,
think
say,
say
and
like a
tell
metal
them one
slide.
non-plastic slide?
well, it needs to be in each area because, the toddlers are going to want to slide too. And it's usually toddlers who get the cochlear implants originally. And from what I remember seeing with my son, we've got a fair percentage of families that opt for cochlear implants. And I think that's probably because we're in a more affluent area. But
So we only have Steve for a few more minutes. He's gotta leave.
oh, okay.
So,
Be
one
out of here by like 7:45 at the latest.
a couple of the biggest things that I wanted to talk to you about.
Because I'll write it completely like it's not spelled. What is it, CO something, do you know how to spell it?
COCHLEAR.
All right, well, time out. I went to
C-
Chelmsford High, you gotta slow down.
Sorry, COCHLEAR.
Yep, no, that was easier than I thought. Implants. All right, I'll figure out how to word
But I think the
something.
main thing you just need to say is non-static inducing is really what you're looking for.
I mean, I would assume, well, most of the stuff now isn't like what you see out there, plastic, like PVC type slide. It's composite materials, it's all kind of,
It still
I mean,
creates static.
I'm certainly no expert on static.
It's basically the same concept of walking across the rug in the winter and zapping someone. It's just how the charge is built up.
Okay.
Last week you talked about a concern about having more than one type of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to include that in the design considerations? Because that would certainly impact that.
I thought I saw it elsewhere.
I don't know.
No,
that
I don't
saw
think
it.
there's anything necessarily specific. Nick had caught that when he read it, so I think that's on my notes. But I'll note it again. That,
So basically, you're going to say, like, there's only going to be one manufacturer's equipment in the playground.
yeah, because that was Nick's biggest concern, and of course, is the one thing I didn't have in my original.
That's how
I
it
thought
goes,
I
right?
saw it, probably because it's just in my head.
The budget, right? So you've got 375.
Yep.
What I'd appreciate or like to see, if we could, is if we could tie that back into the budget that we've been presenting from. So if you could back out the stuff that you guys are going to provide, and then I don't know, do you guys normally set up a contingency or anything, like with these types of projects? Like, would you give would it be a?
Well, I mean, typical contingency that we carry on construction projects is 10 to 15%, depending on the project.
And is that built into the RFP? Like, is that part of the 375?
No,
So it's on top
no,
of
if your
that?
overall budget was 450, call 10% for easy math, 45,000 be a contingency.
Okay.
So that drops you to 405. And then if you're gonna knock out, any spot that we're gonna supply chips, the fencing, screening, and any, whatever other little things, you're chipping down, you'd be below the 375,
Right.
in all honesty.
So that's what you're saying, is to add what you're gonna do to the
I mean, I wouldn't
375 and
necessarily
we're
worry
at
about a
budget.
contingency number at this point,
Okay,
because trust me, town meeting voted it. In the next couple of days, we had all the playground companies emailing us
Oh,
saying,
good.
so everybody knows, and it's
Right.
public information, so they all know what the overall number is. But we need to put a number in that we feel comfortable taking out the stuff that we're gonna supply,
Right.
but still gives us some leeway, kind of like I was trying to explain to you yesterday, granted, I was typing one finger and the iPhone thing's all screwed up, so every time I hit I, it's an A and a square and all this other stuff.
For those who need the new toys.
Oh, it's an old iPhone, but it's just whatever.
It's the new update.
Well, looking at the budget, I see, I don't, maybe there's other stuff that you're looking at, but I saw about $32,000. But it's $75,000 difference, so I'd like to
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean-
close that gap.
I can, like I said to you, I'll up it, I don't,
I think we need
Does
to.
that go
So-
into the landform stuff that I believe your boss
That's-
was saying costs more than you
But-
had originally
oh,
put
it's gonna
into
be
the-
way more than what I originally figured, especially if it's molded into all the, you know, inclusive and universal design. If that all has to be accessible, the price is gonna be 10 times what I gave you.
Well, and is there also the opportunity that if we leave it at 375 and people come in and present what they can deliver for 375 and we say, wow, this is missing and this is missing, and then we look at it and say, oh, we actually have like an extra 10 grand, you know, and then we add something from there, right?
No,
Because
I
the
mean,
only
we
reason I'm
can-
looking at this as the 375 is saying, well, look, this is an RFP, right? We want to try to, if we can get it for 375, let's get it for 375.
Yeah,
If we
but I
put it
mean,
for
we went to town
400,
meeting and said we were gonna spend this much money. I think we need to spend that much money, you know what I mean? And if we can fundraise to offset some of those costs, or even fundraise to add to, I think that.
And trust me, I'm not trying to make that number low so we still have cash in our pocket at the end of the day.
right?
That is typically so we have a little play in the process. As we get going through design, you know, they might say, this is what we can do for your 375, you know, all these, you know, the walkways, different surfacing, you know, two huge structures, bunch of swing slides, everything you could imagine. And then we can still add, you know, another piece or two, or a piece in the toddler area, or a piece in the big kid area, you know, things like that.
So you
'Cause
can
if-
add money to the budget even
sure.
after the RFP's been done?
If we have the
We're
money,
happy to have
oh,
it
sure.
spend money.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about from the town standpoint, from a municipal standpoint. We can spend,
Legally speaking.
Yeah.
spend more than the
It'll be
RFP
the-
has already been approved for?
Yes,
A bid that comes in.
He has all those
Yeah.
clauses
Yeah,
in there
well,
about this can be modified
Yep.
by
Right.
DPW
Yeah,
whenever,
it's all
so.
standard stuff.
So can we then create a budget that would tie back to this, that if you do go with 375, that would identify the pieces of this, right, that you're taking out, and then the monies that you're setting aside that are still available?
I mean, again, depending on how, if they don't take up, say they only take up half of the area that was identified in the previous committee,
Right.
right? Well, my perimeter fencing gets a lot smaller, the need for chips gets a lot smaller, so I'm probably gonna save 10 grand right off the top. So, you know, if their design comes back in that it's this area and we start looking at numbers, you know, through January when we're heavy into the design process, well, we can say, well, listen, you know, we're probably gonna have 15 grand extra. Can we do another, you know, small climbing structure or two little spinny things or something along,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
or sand tables
I
or,
prefer
yeah,
it that
whatever.
way.
That way we have some
Sensory.
flexibility.
I get that, but I mean, that's, 10 grand, but, $50,000 is a lot of surfaces, and I don't wanna hamstring a designer that, that doesn't put the right amount of, or the available amount of, poured in
Overall
place
scope.
surfaces, or whatever surface in place,
I mean,
because
you
we
tell
don't
me,
have
I
it
mean,
enough.
I'm comfortable, I'll move it to 400 if you want. That,
I mean, my feeling is if we presented this, that we should make it match, right? So if it's 450 less whatever these pieces are that you guys are gonna do, and if you want to pull a contingency out, whatever that would be. I personally don't wanna hold it back.
some
but I
food
don't
for
see why we're
thought.
holding back.
Yeah, it's not
not,
holding
yeah.
back. What it is a typical contract negotiation
Right.
thing where you leave room to find out
Well, we-
that certain things might need some foundation under it, and suddenly we need to put some sort of footings so down 4 feet for them,
It's
and
just-
to pay for that.
Okay.
It's not a matter of we're shortchanging the project. It's a matter of we're leaving room because there are so many variables.
But we're saying, we're saying to the designer, here's what we want and here's how much money we have. So that's, off the bat, that's gonna limit what they can do, right? So if we hold back $50,000, that's gonna be $50,000 less of something that they would have put in the plan.
But it
Not,
leaves us some choice.
Not,
But
After the
again, if this goes to 400, just again for easy math, then there's 50,000 held out. Well, the 50,000 held out, again, is for chips, fence, a butter screening, and that gives us probably 15 grand you know, as kind of a contingency money. If we, you know, go to put in the main structure when we're going to drill holes and it's nothing but ledge, you know, or something, and we gotta start doing different things, or, you know, maybe we decide to build a walkway from the upper parking lot so we can move handicap spots up to the top, so we can get at this thing easier. You know, anything like, we just, you know, or like I said, we see it's tracking perfect, and we go to the supplier and say, you know, give me another small tree fort looking thing we can put over there, you know?
That last thing's actually a really good point. Our master plan involves a whole pathway thing that allows you
Yeah,
to
we're
get to
gonna
the
have to
park, but
build
currently
something.
we got nothing.
Yeah.
So we could have a wonderful accessible playground that no one can get to.
Yeah, I think the bricks are supposed to be handicapped, getting up from the bottom lot.
Right.
Because at
but
the
they
time the playground
only-
was built, the top lot wasn't there.
But, I mean, currently it's not a,
Oh, I know, we fully expect to have to build,
so is that, I
Something.
guess, is that built into the,
no.
your, okay.
So
So that
So
could,
how does-
that you could, that
that
could
could
cover,
quickly eat some money.
yeah, that could quickly
No, we're
cover the
gonna-
difference.
It's not that much of a walkway, we'll figure it out.
So what do you guys want to do? You want to stick with 375, or do you want to, my only concern is whatever we end up doing, I want to make sure that ties back to this so that there's accountability to town meeting, that we can say, this is what we told you we were going to spend, and this is how it netted out.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about
No,
justifying any cent I spend on any project.
I am.
I'm not, and I mean, I've been working here for 16 and a half years.
I'm not
know, but-
pointing a finger at you. I'm just saying that my concern is I want to make sure that I stood up in front of those people and told them that we were going to do this. And I want to make sure that we
Oh,
account
trust me.
for it, and we can account for it in a budget. So if it's,
I think 400 would probably be a,
I mean, I'll change it to 400, I have no
the
problem.
bullet point right above the money, the town of Chelmsford reserves the right to modify these considerations if necessary or as needed. And if you want to put or desired, so that we have, then that covers our butts.
No, we're covered, I'm not worried about it. I'll change it to 400, I have no problem.
my personal feeling, and I'll defer to you guys, my personal feeling is that I'd rather give a designer the money to work with up front than have to sort of backfill in. But I can also see the point of if we run into problems, but if we're
I
going to
just
do
don't
that,
want to go
then we
over
should,
budget, that's my
then we
concern.
should call it a contingency and identify what that percentage is. If it's 10%, then we should take 10% of the 450 and
Call it
set that
that.
aside and put the rest into the thing.
Right.
Fair.
Question, Barry Jefferson, can you negotiate back down? So up until now, you've been talking about when you give 375, and if you have a little money left over, you can go back to them and say, hey, look, if we give you another 15 grand, can you do this? Can you do the reverse?
yeah.
If you gave them 400 or 425, and you realized that Steve didn't have the money, could you come back to them and say, hey, look, could we drop a couple of things out here?
Probably not if they've already ordered a part.
Yeah, I think it's a lot harder, it's harder to do that than the
That's what I'm
reverse,
saying,
yeah.
but I was just wondering.
I mean, anything's doable.
And,
It's not a matter of ordering. It might be, say the climbing structure is elaborate, and they've got the ramps and whatever. And the individual pieces are more sparse. How are they going to take out from that big structure without completely redesigning it?
So you guys seem to be in agreement. It's much easier to push upwards than to
yeah.
pull back down.
Right.
Okay.
We
Definitely.
could add
Yeah.
more sensory things, we could add more,
So
Like,
where do
off
you guys
pieces.
want? 'Cause Steve's
I
on
would
limited
really
time.
like to defer to Steve on this because he has had the experience and he seems to understand these numbers of what it's gonna take. And if he feels comfortable going to 400, like 100%, then I would support him on that. If he says that's pushing it, then I think we need to really listen to
No,
why.
400's
he's at
comfortable, I wouldn't go
375.
much higher than that. Because that, again, leaves us the stuff we're gonna supply plus a little bit in the slush fund if we do have an issue.
right,
And
so
if we
you,
find it's all good, like I say, we'll bang out a couple more pieces of equipment in it. You know, something that's simple to order, that's readily available, you know, there's those little bowl spinning things at Harrington, they're short, you know, throw a bunch of them, everybody can get in them and go whipping
Yeah.
around, you know, I mean,
have you guys had many budget modifications laid into the playground process anywhere else?
most recently, East, you know, we did the initial thing and we're already in talks to add more pieces, granted it was, you know, sort of a smaller scale process, you know, started after this one's already done.
I mean, is there generally like a percentage of wiggle room, like you kind of like, well, we go
We
out
try
for
to-
bid for
we
this
try-
amount, and then we kind of have like, 5%?
Yeah, I mean, we always try to maximize any amount of money that we're given, you know. Here, just knowing the property, I wanna have a little bit of wiggle room,
Ledge and all.
yeah.
So,
So you feel comfortable with 400, that you wouldn't be concerned about going over budget or anything like that then? I mean, okay.
I like 400 then. if
That's
you're good
fine.
with that.
Adele,
I'll go with it, sure.
Elizabeth? So, can you also set up the contingency? Can you back out from this, what what you guys are gonna do, and then whatever the remainder is, call that your contingency then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Any other comments or questions from you guys?
I just have one. The inventory on the two playgrounds, you know, 80-inch playgrounds, how did you come up with that? Did you sit down and come up with that? Was that from the master plan? You know, when you list all the different items that the playground's gonna have. Is that appropriate?
You're talking about in the RFP or in the master plan?
In the RFP, yeah.
That's standard, all the playground websites we go to, divide them that way
No, I
because of,
think he was asking about the specifics, and Steve already said that they went out and just kind of roughly counted stuff versus the master plan where the
No.
oh,
previous
then I
board
misunderstood the
specifically-
question.
No, what I said was Nick and I went out there Monday and just did a rough inventory, knowing full well that in the master plan, everything was, you know, down to the piece of rope and all this stuff. And I would include that as an attachment for a full inventory. But when you look at how we wrote it up, you know, a playhouse, a small climbing structure in the 2 to 5 area, a small climbing structure is gonna have a rope thing and, you know, other little things. So there's no need to get into the level of detail in, as I always call it, the meat of the sandwich. I'll put it in as the attachment, so it's there for reference, so people see, oh, this, you know, and all the pictures and all this other stuff. But there's no need for it to be in here, because any, like in the 5 to 12 area, if you get one of those big, you know, massive structures, it's gonna have a million spots where you can climb up, come down, you know, stairs, slides, ropes, climbing chain things, rock walls, all this stuff, they're all gonna have that.
So there's a few sort of universal type equipment that are out there that I think we'd want to discuss and maybe talk about adding. Can we get that to you later?
Well, like, just, like what?
Well, like sensory areas, right?
So
He added
I
that.
put that in the
A
other file.
roundabout.
A what?
It's called a roundabout. It's like one of those things
It's little
it spins like you.
merry-go-round type,
Yeah.
like the ones where kids run around, right? Where one of the kids runs around the outside and pushes, the rest
Oh,
of the
and
kids were all
everybody's on
spinning.
But they have them that are built into the surfaces that wheelchairs can pull
Yeah.
right up on, and they spin around.
I think there's also something along that lines which is called a sway, there's a sway
A
something.
glider.
And-
There's a few things like that, so rather than take your time on that, because a couple things I want to talk to you about the process, can we get you a list of those things?
Yeah, that's fine. Like I say, I'm just gonna need it like soon, because
Right.
this is
We'll
out
talk
there.
about it tonight after you leave, because I know you have to leave in a few minutes,
Yep.
right? On the scope, for community engagement, I don't know that we necessarily have to have them participate in 2 committee meetings. I don't know that we need to make that. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but, I mean, I think we can communicate.
Well, let me just try to explain how we got the 2. I figure they're gonna come in, you know, once we select the company, you know, once the contracts are signed, they're gonna come in, you know, introduce themselves. And then when the design's done, they're gonna come back and present the design.
Okay,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Seems
you know.
reasonable.
I
I
like
mean,
it.
just,
okay.
The only thing I was curious about, so we had talked about doing like design day with the kids and all that. Do we need to be more specific in here so that, because you'd mentioned something about they're gonna have to basically put in here 2 days worth of labor to participate, or a day, or whatever it is, so
well,
they write it in, I mean, is that
that was,
inclined?
if the decision is to drag them around to the schools, you know, and go through classes, I know that has been talked about, you know.
Well, I don't know about going through classes, maybe like an assembly or something, I don't know. However, the design was, or the design day was that he discussed before, I don't know what the process is,
I
but,
mean,
yeah, I don't know if we need to
our
write it in.
feeling, myself, Gary, Nick, you know, is that going through classrooms is, what are you gonna get out of it?
Mhm.
You know, we made the we want to make the recommendation that you get to the PTOs, get to the schools, you know, get the information out. You get social medias, you get town websites. I know Bill has his own website. You could have the, you know, live design thing, you know, where they come, put it on the screen and can move stuff around. You can have all, you know, what the kids draw on the paper and all that. We can do it at the senior center, the police station. To us, we just feel that it's just, you know, because, again, I know this was talked about, and I think you brought it up, you know, you already have a theme, you already have color stuff, you already kind of know what you're targeting for equipment, so what do you,
That's fair.
you know, I mean, that's our opinion, you know,
I mean, I think well, yes, I did say all those things. I would disagree that having kids involved in the process, I still think there's room for having the kids, like, we're gonna send out surveys and that's gonna go to the parents, but having a focus, I mean, when you try to sell any widget, whatever, it's good to have a focus group of what your audience, your target audience is. And our target audience is kids, and so far, we have no kids. I mean, we all, I'm sure, played on playgrounds at some point, but we don't have any actual kid
Input.
And I think that was part of the vision.
Well, I thought the point of it, more than us getting real data that we're going to use to change the design, was to just make it a community event, right? And to draw awareness to it so that we'd have the parents of the children that were involved aware, so that when we needed their help to build the playground, they could help on the construction.
I think
I thought that was a
all
big part of it too.
key
So,
parts of it.
I think
Yeah,
it's
part of
both.
it's PR.
Part of it is definitely
No, I
PR,
get that.
but
I
I
mean,
that's,
think
but I didn't see it really in here, so I wasn't sure if it was something we weren't doing now. So, if we
I think that's their perspective, but my perspective is still that I think it's an important part. I think it's, I think you're going to get minimal input for the actual design, but you're going to get maximum output for community engagement. Not only from just that specific day and what those kids take home and talk to their parents, but I mean, realistically, the filming of it and the putting the videos out there and the potential for,
PR opportunities from
for the
And you mentioned like a cost
WBZ
probably
to
like
come
$2,000
in
or something,
and,
right?
and-
Roughly.
I'm guessing, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't,
I mean, we could put it in, and then if the companies don't want to do it, or they're not, then we can make a decision. If the 4 people that come back and respond say we can't do that, or we're not going to do it, then we make a decision that, well, it doesn't
And
look like
most
it's
of
going
them
to work. but-
advertise that they do it.
Right.
So-
I think it's an integral part of a lot of people's expected design processes.
So,
I have one question, though. Do we want to specify a meeting with the parents of the CPAC to see what they would like to see?
I think we can do that. I don't think we have to involve the playground
Okay.
people with that,
Yeah.
and that can be part of our survey process that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good idea. 1 second, Dave, let's just Steve finish.
are you talking every elementary school, the two in the
No,
neighborhood,
no.
Harrington,
No.
Byam?
We'll work with Dr. Lang. I've already spoken to him. It'll either be 1 or 2 elementary schools. It'll probably be
Yeah, well,
one.
the kids in the neighborhood are gonna go to Byam and Harrington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll
I know
probably
the
end up going
line
to just
moves
one
every once in a
and-
while.
Yeah.
I think the top of my street goes to Byam and the bottom of my street goes to
Well,
Harrington.
when I was a kid at 298, I went to Harrington, and my friend at 312 went to Byam. So,
My kids are on Thomas, and they go to Byam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
leave it open to
A lot of the
Dr.
kids
Lang
in
though,
my
'cause
street
he
go to
may
Byam,
have,
yeah.
he may have,
I believe we can
considerations.
Yeah, so just,
The
what would we
bottom
write
of
it,
the
just like a
And we can schedule, we'll do the scheduling on that. You don't have to
budget
get
one day
involved
of
in that.
participation in design
I'll
day
just
or
write it
something.
as like,
No, I think you are
I mean, what do you,
Harrington.
When we
I'll
bought our
come up
house,
with
we were definitely in Byam.
The scope.
Consultation for a day or something, I don't know.
no, but if you go
Really?
to like
It had changed.
school assembly for
Because I have
45 minutes or
show my
something like that, in the middle of the day, everybody goes to the gym and.
That's what I'm thinking,
It's on the
more
other side.
like,
Yeah.
not going classroom to classroom.
No, that's
yeah.
fine.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
no,
at
no,
Berkeley.
No,
no.
no.
David, you had a question?
Yeah, well, of
On the
course,
upper
Steve,
part, okay.
I'm not familiar with public RFPs, but I wasn't sure if in the RFP, if you wanted to add any elements for warranty.
There
Yeah, no,
are,
It's there.
It's there.
Yeah,
Also, there are other government standards for playground equipment, ASTM and
Yeah.
CPSC. I know you have ADA compliance in here.
We crossed that out before you came. The standard is to be inclusive play, universal design.
and to speak to the materials and stuff like that, a lot of that is in the standard conditions that I didn't bother sending with any kind of building project or anything like that. We have standard stuff that goes in.
You have to meet government regulations on playgrounds.
And then one last item which we'd like to see in the design proposal is also the impact to the community, specifically the abutters. So we wouldn't want to put a two-story castle right on the property line.
No?
As well as, you know what I mean?
3 stories then?
That's a good
Four
point. So in the design
Sometimes I walk my
considerations.
backyard, I'm like, oh, hey, hi.
You can have, we'll put a zip line
Picking
right
up,
there.
right?
We actually wanted that. That was our fourth request.
Okay, perfect. We'll accommodate it.
That was part of
Thank
the
you.
master plan expectation, so can we add that to the design considerations, that,
Minimize
it was,
noise to abutters.
Disruption of
So you don't want like a two-story tower with binoculars built into the, yeah, no.
I mean, one company's got a nice, like, 40-foot high climbing thing.
There was one from Australia which was either 4 or 5 stories and then had this huge batwing type, a shade cover for it. It was gorgeous.
So on task 2, play structure design, the second bullet point, being that we're going to include the design day in the schools, so the schematic wouldn't come a week prior to that, it would come that day, right? Or shortly thereafter.
The what?
So
I didn't understand that either.
task 2,
Schematic isn't gonna be built before the design day if we're actually using input from the design day, I think is what
Well,
Bill was saying.
yeah, but
But they're probably gonna give you some estimate of
Yeah.
a schematic in their bid, because otherwise there's no,
right, but even after that, like, you know, I'll use Harrington again as the example, I think I said this last time, is that they had more or less a layout when they went to the live design thing at the school. So then as people made input, they could turn and move, but they had a basic layout, you
Okay.
know, of where so you need something to start with. You can't just show up with a blank screen, and then everybody's
Right.
going in 27 different directions,
okay.
which can be awesome, but I think it would just drag out forever.
12-hour meeting.
Yeah, we're not planning on serving food at design day.
Lots of coffee.
And then in terms of the deliverables, right? So we'd like to have some kind of a material list that would have sponsorship costs. So if it's a structure list, you know, it's like the toddler swing
Yeah, I mean, that
costs this much.
Yeah, I'll just add that into, with the
Benches.
final, just, you know, wow, it's been a long week. What did you say, something list?
It's a
Materials list.
Or the
with
equipment
pricing
list.
or
Donation.
equipment, so we can do.
With sponsorship costs. And then the same thing for maintenance too. We're gonna wanna know what the maintenance needs are for the equipment. So if it's some sort of a list of, you know, if it's the surface, it needs to be cleaned every month or whatever that is, we need that information too.
Yeah, and I think some of that will come, or most of that will come as we work through the design process.
Right, so I guess what I'm saying is, at the end of the design process, right, this is before construction starts, we need to have some sort of a list or spreadsheet of, this is the stuff, this is how this stuff is gonna have to be maintained, so we can plan for it. Or say, you know what, this
No,
is,
what I'll do
requires
is
too
I'll
much
just,
maintenance.
yep, no, I'll just add,
Rough
in with
maintenance
warranty
costs.
maintenance information.
Great.
Yeah, because that should be a big part of what the eventual bid is. If we buy the cheapest playground, but the cheapest playground requires like $1 million in maintenance to keep it functional, then
Exactly, so you want to minimize maintenance.
Right.
Exactly.
The only other thing I had on here, and not, again, I don't know if it's too much detail, but since we're doing the community build, it says here, provide management oversight during the community build process. Would that include any type of upfront details such as, hey, when we do plan for manpower, like, okay, here's how many people you're gonna need, is that part already assumed?
They
Okay.
typically, anyone that I've seen with community build, they'll make recommendations that, you know, on Saturday and Sunday, you need, you know, I think the Castle in the Trees there was 3 shifts of 40 people or something.
Yeah.
You know, for 4 hours or something, you know, for the day, because I know they went Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday.
Yeah, they didn't plan on going into Monday.
No, I know, I
was it
live
a
in Littleton,
3-day
so trust
build?
me, I know.
it was a 3-day build?
Yes.
It's all coming together.
That's impressive.
Steph is your wife?
Huh?
Steph is your
David?
wife?
Yeah.
One thing which
We
you
used
may
to live
want
in
to make
Lincoln.
consideration
Oh,
for is
so,
if the community
yeah.
build overruns, and let's just say, be dramatic for a moment, overruns by a month, you may want to get a per diem cost if they have to send people in to support the community build for that period of time, get that up front, and so that way you can control the cost, because afterwards it's harder to control the cost.
That's a good point, yeah. So if we're not successful in engaging enough people, can we add something in there that they would say, okay, it's gonna cost this much at the point that we're,
Mhm.
okay. And with the community built on the, I don't know what page this is, it's under the proposal section. It's the last bullet point. It says proposers must demonstrate suitable experience in play structures, providing evidence of the successful completion of not less than 5 play structures. Can we add that we would prefer to have someone with community build, is it build or built?
Build.
It's the next sentence.
Build experience?
Also,
it says
proposals
here- Oh,
shall
okay,
indicate a
gotcha. My
history of
bad.
community
All
built play structures and oversight.
Gotcha.
Do any of those include that they have history in inclusive design? Because I think we really
No, I can add it in
should
there.
have that, because I really think that if this whole goal is to have an inclusive playground, we'd really like to go with a company that has
That's-
a
It's
good
done it.
Yeah.
experience with inclusive design. I don't think we want to be, in our short time frame, a guinea pig.
My last comment was just for attachments. I thought it might be helpful to attach the master plan, just so that they get a feel for what
No,
the,
I think he
I'm not
said-
attaching the whole thing. I'll
Oh.
put a link if you want for
That's
the
fine.
whole thing. I will attach those few sheets with the, highly detailed inventory. I obviously have to attach the
The tree
master
thing?
plan, like actual plan.
The tree thing, or?
That's on the print, I think. Yeah, I
tree
mean,
protection guidelines. So what about the town meeting presentation? That specifically talks just to the
again,
playground.
send me the links
Okay,
and I'll,
that's fine.
put them
Yeah.
in there for reference, bing, bing, and, rather than this thing being.
Yeah, it would be huge, I agree.
Gazillion pages, no. All right, so. Proof of inclusive play and universal design projects.
Have you guys been contacted by companies that have done inclusive design out of curiosity?
We've been contacted by the same 4 companies we always deal with, and I'm sure they,
Well, I guess that's the question, is I don't know who those 4 companies are, and do you know if those companies have
they
inclusive
all have,
history?
every piece of equipment that they show you has some kind of accessible, like, that's the word I'm gonna go back to, features.
Mhm.
You can get up through, half of it or 70% of it, or if everybody's over here, the other child can be on this side,
Right,
so they're not, like we talked about, in the corner over
Right.
there, doing this while everybody else is over here.
yeah.
So just about every main structure that we've looked at, for this project, other projects, has features like that. And it'll be up to whoever the company is to put it all together in one package to fit this.
And one of the companies that's fairly local, that I'm sure has placed a bid, is the one that's done Joey's Place, so that seems to be the standard.
Who built that
Around
one, do
here.
we know? Is that the
Um,
one in,
I don't have it,
That's
it's
the one in Belmont.
Nature Made or
It's the
something
one in
like.
Belmont, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's in Belmont.
Yeah, I don't know, I was finding places in like Minneapolis and stuff that was doing a lot of stuff, but, I assume that's not,
Going back to the question about the specific stuff in the play areas, this is, and we can send you this if you want, but this is the list of things that we were gonna send out as a survey that might be sort of generic enough that you could kind of break these up. That it includes not only stuff that was at Friendship Park now, but also some new things as well. It's hard to read from there, but, do you want me to send you that list?
I can show it to you. Sorry,
wrecking the place? Oh, we can't have nice things.
this is
Of course,
the,
I got no glasses today. Yeah, I mean, but a lot of this stuff is gonna be, there'll be, they don't technically call them seesaws anymore, but a lot of that stuff is gonna be in, climbers, the zip line aerial stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff you already have on there.
It's gonna, like I say, it's gonna come with the
The overall
structure.
big structure,
stuff,
right?
Or, you know, they'll have a structure and some of this stuff will be separate, but kinda,
Involved,
yeah, exactly.
attached.
Right. That's why we kinda left it, what
So
we
if it's-
put in sort of vague on purpose,
Yeah,
you know, and you attach in that other stuff so everybody can see, they're all gonna go out and look at it, you know, see what's there, you know, but then they can kinda, this is what we can do for you, and we can really, you know, see what people can bring.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
wanna limit their imagination.
I don't wanna paint people in a box and,
Right, and say this is the only thing that we can,
Right,
or will
these are all the
accept.
things that were in our current playground, give us exactly
Right.
this.
As long as.
Because there may be things we haven't even thought of or don't even know about.
20
that-
years ago, playground
yeah.
structures,
I'm sure there's things
Oh,
we don't
it's
even know
crazy.
about.
totally different world.
As long as it not being on the list means that it doesn't appear into the playground, right? That's my fear, is that if we don't put something on this list, then it's not gonna show up in the design. You know what I mean?
No,
No, because during the design process, we can talk about, hey, this is missing,
Yeah, I mean,
and
when
we
we-
want to see how this looks
if
when
they
you add
come
it in.
through and there's no, you know, slide that comes down like this, we can say, hey, you know,
We
want
like
a slide
swirly
that goes down
slides.
instead of
this.
having one that goes
Right.
out like this, can we do one like this? And that'll give us room to add, you know, another small dome thing or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I
and
mean,
also, they have more knowledge of what's available than we do.
Oh, I
So
agree.
if we list things, we run the risk of saying, we're not interested in hearing
That's what I'm
about.
afraid of. I mean, that's why this list concerned me, because, you know, does this mean then that we're not gonna consider roundabouts, or we're not gonna consider sensory?
Oh, no.
no, 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 no.
No,
That,
they're
that is
going
just
on
there
that
solely for a
stuff.
minimum, you know? This is
Yeah.
the stuff that
We
we're
want
looking at.
swing.
They will come in and give you a, you know, as Nick calls it, the pretty picture contest, I call it the dog and pony show. They'll come in with the big structure, you know, a seesaw, you know, or, you know, all this other stuff, this, you know, and then you'll have the product line,
Okay.
you know?
Can we add that minimum language to this?
It's
I
on
think
there.
it says
Is it? Okay,
minimum.
good.
Minimum
It
equipment.
does say that.
Okay, good. And the dates, so these, the 15th, still good? Where did I see the 15th?
It's somewhere towards the,
November 15th is still the issue date?
no, it's the sixth Thursday.
Okay. It's on
Although
the,
is the 6th.
it's on the third page, fourth page.
Thursday is the 16th
The fourth page, so that should be the 16th?
in the schedule. Yeah, well, that's what I had, 16th.
Well, my copy says the
Oh,
15th.
yeah, mine says 15 too. Yeah, so just,
All right, well, then I changed it then,
that's fine.
And then the closing, when is it,
the 21st,
December 21st?
which again is a Thursday. I think. Yep.
And then how is it gonna work, like, will we get copies of,
Yep.
Okay, so we'll get the copies, and then,
Yeah, what we'll do is we added in, like, the criteria, and then it'll be like a ranking. I got enough, so the, copies, so the 5 of you can have a copy when we get them, you know, somehow, like, gotta drive them around and drop them at your house or something like that, or whatever. We'll probably get into it like that day or the next day, Gary, Nick, and myself. We'll have an extra copy, the 5 copies for you, town manager gets a copy. You know,
You
and,
scan it and email it to people, or is it?
yeah, no, part of it is getting the bound ones, and then we get PDFs, so I could,
Oh, yeah,
Mail them
PDF would
as
be,
well.
yeah.
so we should have our copies by the 20, well,
yeah,
it's
I
a
mean, I
Thursday,
can get
so
them to you
by
that
Friday or by Monday?
afternoon. No, if we,
Christmas.
yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great.
They're due by 10 in the morning,
Okay,
so, you know, if people want me to,
If you email them to Bill, you could just
yeah, I can get them
forward
out.
them out.
Yeah, so,
that's easy for you, right? They
We don't know
email
how
them to
big
all
so
of
the
the-
us.
21st is a doable,
File is.
yeah, I would think
Okay.
by the end of the day, I could make sure that they're somewhere accessible for everybody to look at, so, you know, you can spend Christmas morning looking at playground proposals.
With our kids, some people
Kids
here
will
won't
be doing that.
Wonderful.
Here's what we're getting for Christmas,
getting
a
this
new
for Christmas.
town playground.
But then at some point,
You just don't have to work.
The week between Christmas and, or I suppose it can be after the first of the year. But prior to that Wednesday, which I think is the 4th of something of January,
Right.
you know, we'll all have to get on the same page of what we're
Right.
doing, you know. Obviously, DPW will have their recommendation. You know, we'll speak to the town manager, but then it'd be nice to just make one recommendation, not us recommend company
Right.
A and you guys recommend company B, and then,
Be good if we could have it like a conversation.
yeah, no, that's fine, that's, you know.
All come to an agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can try to schedule.
You know, just thinking out for your schedule for a meeting. I know it's obviously either holiday week or the week right after the, you know, Monday, Tuesday, right after the first. Well, is the first Monday or Sunday? Monday. So you couldn't do it Monday, you'd have to do it the second.
Right.
So the Board of Selectmen are meeting on the 8th. We'll have to have stuff to them by the 27th, so they'll make the packet, right?
No,
The Wednesday prior to their meeting.
the Wednesday prior to the meeting, which is the
Third.
4th or 3rd.
Oh, I missed
Monday's
a whole
the
week there.
first of
Okay.
January.
Okay. So we need
So
to
we have
meet,
to have, we have to be a decision by the 4th then.
So we, the
Right.
third.
Yeah.
By the
No, by
third.
the
No,
Third,
by the
actually.
third,
We
'cause
need to- We need to meet like Tuesday, the 2nd or something, right?
or
It
the
used-
week of,
The stuff used to have to be to the manager's office by noon, the Wednesday before to get in the packets. I think it's more like the end of business, that day. So I think the packets are available for the selectmen on Thursday morning,
Okay.
and then they upload everything on the website. So preferably it's the week between Christmas and New Year's. I know that's obviously vacation week, and
Crazy.
But that means there's somebody to watch the kids. So their parents home.
so we need to have a meeting by December
I mean,
3rd.
you can do it at, you know, 2 in the afternoon if you want, because you know, I don't know, you know, we're working, so I'll be around.
I'll
And
be
it should be a
working.
one-off.
Yeah, well,
I
no,
know, we'll-
no,
I'll
I'm
be,
just,
I'll be working too.
We'll
but,
get
yeah,
some
we'll work it
dates
out.
and get those over
yeah,
to
no,
you.
that's fine,
Yep, okay.
that's fine.
Any other questions or comments on the RFP? Thank you, Steve.
No, you're
Yeah,
free to
thank
go.
Thank you very much.
And you stayed late.
Speed and take
Kudos.
chances. There we go.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, thanks.
I throw up one thought, I don't think this is happening. Now more than ever, obviously parents are concerned about molesters and somebody going after big things. I actually heard one other comment about the castle and the trees. They have an area underneath the castle, you know, that's.
Yes, it's a dungeon. It's
Mhm.
dressed up as a dungeon completely.
Yeah.
What's that?
It looks like a dungeon. There's bars and stuff and underneath, and it's
Yeah.
set up as a,
But there's also a fair amount of hiding area, so if, you know, it could be a perception about that. If, I don't know. if
yeah,
it's-
I mean, it's one of the most fun places for very small children to play. I
As a
mean, my
mom,
kids love
I'm not worried.
hanging out
Okay.
under there. I mean,
I wanna throw the thought out, there's a comment
Yep.
that I heard somebody say.
we make the hole small enough only for children, and so adults can't get in there.
Yeah.
All right, so any other comments on the RFP? So at the end of the meeting, we can talk about scheduling
Yeah.
for the meeting, but it looks like that we kind of all agreed on the additions to the RFP. We did that without a vote tonight, and then we'll take a final vote somewhere in the December 28th to January 3rd timeframe.
You can, what are the town's bylaws on using general acclamation as opposed to actual vote?
Well, I don't think we really had anything that's, I was thinking that we might have to create sort of a scope, our own scope, and then give it to them, and I thought if that was the case, we'd have to vote on that, sorry.
No, whether we have to vote here and now, or whether we just say, by general acclamation, we approve, because we've all contributed to it, and we're all satisfied that now that our contributions have been accepted.
Yeah, I still want to see a draft of the RFP too, but I think that
I think we should try to say, do we actually have to have a meeting in order for us to come to an agreement?
I don't think so.
We're not going to
Can
be
we,
able to meet
since
between
it's gonna
now
be
and
sent
when
to
it
us
goes
at
out,
home,
right?
can we review it at home and then say, hey, this is who I think is the best, or do we need to have a meeting to discuss?
that's a good question. So, I mean,
Is that
you
what
know,
you're saying?
if-
No,
No.
we
Oh.
have on our agenda,
We were supposed
to-
to vote on those changes.
Correct.
That
Oh.
we gave to Steve, and we're saying we don't need to take any kind of vote. We all agree by general
I
acclamation.
got you, okay.
But assuming he took all of what we said into account, that,
Yeah, I think we need to be fair too and remember, like, he's not gonna take everything, and
Yeah.
we need to respect that and not push buttons and get into a nasty thing up front. You know, like, just be very respectful. I think he was very open and.
I don't
listened.
think anyone
so.
was getting nasty.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, like, I don't think we need to say, like, send it to us and now we're gonna make changes again. I think this was the change
Oh.
night.
Yeah, I don't think we need to see a final draft.
Yeah.
Is that, you're asking to see like a final draft after he's made the changes we've put in?
Bill would
No.
like to see a final draft
I
after.
do, and I don't, just to clarify, I don't see that as being nasty or negative, I just,
I think it's
You
just
know, I
part
think-
of being involved in the process.
yeah. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and it can get a little uncomfortable at times when you kind of walk in different
But we just
shoes.
gave him a lot of information, and I don't see if we gave him that information and he didn't put something in as it's nasty if we go back. It's just that sometimes you miss things because putting together a
Also
document
takes
and
up time, so I'm glad everybody here has copious amounts of it.
listen, I got 2 young children and a full-time job. I don't think.
So what
that-
time does he have to have it
that's part of
submitted
the
by?
Yeah.
commitment to being on the committee.
So it's not gonna be issued until the 16th, so there's time between now and then, obviously, November 16th, right? There's some scheduling issues with vacations and stuff, and their managers in their office that is part of this process. So what I'll do is I'll get the hopefully get the revisions from him. I'll post them on the website so they're a public document, and then include a link to that with the next meeting update that we send out, so that you guys are aware of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's.
And if we
what-
have any,
yeah.
if we have any major omissions or questions or whatnot, we can talk about scheduling a meeting to take a final vote or making any changes on it.
Right. I mean, if it's little
just-
things,
What
eh,
I'm
but
saying
if it's
is I don't
something
foresee
big,
us
then
needing
you know
a
it's
vote.
worthwhile.
It's just important that whatever discussions we have in a public forum, right? So we're trying to sort of avoid the
Back channel.
yeah, the back channel stuff. We don't want to do that. We want to, anything that we have, we want to talk about, in a public forum, so.
Right.
All right, so fundraising. Moving on to the next fun topic. Just to give a quick update about the Friends of Roberts Field reorganization, just to let you guys know, that organization, my organization, is filed as a 501c4 since 2014. They're not officially recognized as a 501c4 nonprofit with the IRS, but they recognize that we're filing as that.
Actually, we'd be looking for a 501c3,
Right.
not C4.
Yeah, I
He's not
think
saying, he's just
saying-
telling you what he has.
Yeah.
It's not what we're
Okay.
looking for, that's what we have.
Right, so the difference between the 4 and the
Yeah.
3 is that a 4 is nonprofit, but it doesn't give any tax deduction benefit to people who donate. So that's the main distinction. So if we're going to convert and reorganize the group, we need, as we talked about last week,
Right.
a new board and treasurer, and then someone to lead if we want to make it a 501c3. We can make it work with a 501c4 if we have to.
We'll get more buy-in from people if you tell them their donations are going to be tax exempt.
And I think, Daniil, you had some thoughts about.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about this because I looked into the forming 501c3s, and essentially you can form a 501c3. It can take 2 to 12 months to get approval. Sometimes you can start fundraising early, but it's just not in the cards for us because we can't put all our eggs in a basket and hope that we are in the 2-month group. That is how long it takes. You can read it on the IRS website.
Is that the same as
Yeah, but
converting? a
standard is
501?
3 months.
I'm just telling you, like, they warn ahead of time that it can be 2 to 12 months. So it doesn't mean that it might not happen in the 2 months or 3. That might be standard. But if something holds up the process and we have no backup, it's a real big problem.
And this may be a silly question. So let's just say we go through the process and we don't get it. People donated. They obviously can't deduct it their taxes. If we go through the process and we do get this 501c3, if they donated before we were the 501c3, can they still claim it on their taxes since we? No. Okay. So it has
Is my best understanding from a friend who does stuff with nonprofits. She's like, I don't, hold me to this, but I asked her that exact question. So you can tell people ahead of time, donate your money. It might be tax deductible, Or we could go with donate your money. It's not tax deductible. It's like if you did a what's the big crowdfunding or something,
Mhm.
right? You're donating to your friend
GoFundMe,
running the
whatever.
marathon, GoFundMe. We could look into just setting that up and have our own GoFundMe site that's not tax deductible if you thought maybe you don't want to, mess with the current thing, which is totally possible. And then the other option, if we wanted a 501c3, which is definitely the best case scenario, is to have what's called a pass-through. And that's where Bill was talking about, like, have the Mother's Club. You have an already established nonprofit. They have to fill out some paperwork. They essentially agree to handle the money for you because your mission fits within their guidelines. So I do have a contact at the Paul Center. I have not heard back. I would assume you're familiar with the Paul Center.
What's the pulse on?
They're on Concord Road. I was pointing to I shouldn't single her out, but they do a lot of camps and programs. I only have it
There's
because we
specifically a
use it.
camp for the mentally challenged.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Or-
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I've driven by and
So I don't know. I think that this is just going to be a very hard sell. I mean, I have, like, when I say I have a contact, like, it's a loose contact. I rented their facility. I met them a couple times. They were lovely, Okay. I think that's going to be a hard sell. The Mother's Club is a hard no. Unless you have, like, a best friend with a 501c3 but they also have to prove that what we're doing fits within their mission. So they can't have an animal shelter and say, sure, we'll handle your money.
Does the
So-
Conservation Commission have a 501c3? Okay.
So I looked at how Ronan McElliott funded, and they have a Friends of Westford Recreation or something, and I don't know.
I mean, Littleton
It's-
already had an established 501c3 from 1995, so that's how they did it. It was simple for them.
Right. So
But
I don't.
my friend there said it's actually kind of expensive to start one too, and yes, the time. That's just unfortunately, and the IRS website supports that, without a guarantee of this will take X amount of months if we get,
Right. So I have no idea whatsoever, and I know we're in Chelmsford and they're in Westford, but
yeah.
the Westford Friends of Recreation served as the 501c3 sponsoring organization for the Ronan McElliott Memorial, and this is right on the Westford line. We could ask whether they'd be willing to be a sponsoring organization since they are a Friends of Recreation on the Westford line.
By all means, who wants to ask?
I will.
I've asked 2 places already, so.
I've been talking to a number of accountants. My friend is well involved in the New England accounting. I don't know what the organization is, but on trick or treating, I was talking to people about accounting. So I have a number of feelers out to the local accounting community. So I have people looking into it, and the people I was talking to don't have particular experience in nonprofits, but they are talking to people they know who do nonprofits. So I'm not going to say that I have anything hard yet, but I would say that I have leads in terms of getting accounting assistance.
And that accounting
terms of this.
assistance at this point in the game, we would need to be on full understanding, is for going a 501c4 route, because there's not time to establish a 501c3 and we don't have anybody. I just thought of one other person. I will do a third email. When my son was receiving EI services at the Tom Ann Sullivan Center. I don't know if they have a nonprofit, but I still see lots of his therapists around and locally, and like they come to birthday parties. So I would be happy to ask them. I think our playground might fit in their mission.
It's
If-
also possible we could start a 501c3. I mean, there's nothing preventing us from trying to look into converting the 501c4 and in the meantime getting donations. We don't have to give up on doing a 501c3 just because we don't think we'll get donations
I think we
accepted
should
into
have
it.
a 501c3. That's my second part. I think we should get that ball rolling. That's going to be important long term. But
Right.
short term, the problem is when we go to solicit donations without that already in place, we have to be upfront with whoever we're talking to and say,
And
this, your gift might be tax
Right,
deductible.
and which, as long as we're clear about that, I mean, from what I was just looking at, it looks like, certain private organizations which would otherwise donate will not donate unless you have a 501c3.
Right.
So, it will hamstring us for a period of time, but we like you said, we need to look long term because this is there is a large master plan, and this is first plan, we're trying to get the playground, but if we look long-term for this, we're gonna be looking towards getting more of the park, Roberts Field, in the next, 10 years. So I think getting the ball rolling on either converting the 501c4 to a 501c3, or just initiating its own 501c3, I think. But in the meantime, I have no idea anything other than what I Googled about the Westford, the Memorial Playground, but I think there's,
okay
I think there's other avenues to explore before we shut it down.
Okay, so what you're asking them to do, just so like you know the language, is a pass-through, and it's
Right.
called a 501c3 pass-through for tax purposes, but we will then have to write a contract with them too, because they will want to understand exactly what their involvement is. But in the end, here's the other thing with it. They have the final say of that money. So I think that's really key to remember with whoever we work with.
So we have to trust them, basically.
We have to implicitly trust
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
And, I love these other organizations, and do I implicitly trust them? I think so. Do we as a group, are we on board? Are we all gonna implicitly trust them? I don't know, that's hard.
And there's a difference between trusting and having divergent.
Absolutely, if they say, oh, well, somebody embezzled your money,
Right.
Right.
I mean.
There's also implicitly trusting people and having divergent views as to the goals, and if they're, if our goals don't fit completely within their, purview, then they might want to understandably direct things in a particularly slide manner. So yeah, it's definitely things we should keep in mind.
We need to start our own. I don't think that the pass-through, like I said, I'm happy to talk to these people and see, but I don't think that's a great avenue. So it really becomes, we can start fundraising with literature, if you will, or, writing it in. Your donation may be tax deductible. And then we have to decide, are we gonna start a new 501c3 or with like your accounting friends, and would they be willing to sit on bills and kind of help lead the reorganization and carry that on? Because I don't have that experience. So I would say, like, I'd love to help you. I got no skills to bring to the table.
Right.
So that's not helpful at all.
Because that's
But
step
I
number
mean-
2, right? So if we decide, okay, we're going to start fundraising with the 501c4, we're going to go after the 501c3, but we still need a treasurer, an accountant,
We
or
still
but
need
we
that.
still
We
need
still
even
need
to do
that.
the
We
even do the
still need
fundraising for the 501c4, right? We would still need
Right.
yeah. So that's
We still
priority
need
number
people,
1.
but we don't necessarily need an accountant as the treasurer. We can get accounting help. There are people who are probably willing to help as a nonprofit with accounting help, but do not want to sit on a board. But the treasurer, as long as you have a treasurer who is willing to take the responsibility for the money, the treasurer does not have to be an accountant. The treasurer just has to be
Right.
someone who can
No.
work with
Sure.
a spreadsheet.
Right.
Set up books.
Exactly.
That's-
So
right.
while I can go out and ask accountants to be on a board, if we don't get anyone who's really willing to commit to being on a board, that doesn't mean that we don't have accountants who aren't willing to maybe help us with the accounting needs that will limitedly come up.
Sure.
Great. So is anybody willing to be on a board with?
I'm willing to be on a board. I don't see it as diverging substantially from what we're doing here. I mean, I'm going to be trying to do the same stuff either way, so I don't know what it entails, and maybe I'm going to sign myself up for something.
I don't think it would be as, honestly, I don't think it would be as time consuming as this.
Exactly.
No, I don't
That's
think
kind
it
of what I think. I feel like it's just going to benefit us doing our work here, so I might as well say.
Okay. So,
Well, that's 2. We need 3
have,
more.
You have a chair and a treasurer. You need 5 people.
Yeah, we need at least 5.
I didn't say I'd be the treasurer. I said I'd be on the board.
And we can open it up, online too, if you guys, I know we talked about that last time, and we said we were gonna hold off. So if we wanna open it up, I'll be happy to post a help wanted posting.
For the Friends of Roberts Field.
Yeah.
Right. And specifically say what we're looking for, someone with accounting experience or
Or at least
Right.
bookkeeping
right.
experience.
And to your earlier point last week, Marcus, we could always approach CPA firms in town too to see if they would help us just to set up the books.
Right.
Set the process up so that we can,
Not necessarily be on the board, but to help us.
right,
Right.
just set up,
Mhm.
just to set it up.
So Tom Christiana has an awful lot of contacts, obviously. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you could provide some guidance in terms of some of the people
Yeah,
to contact.
He'd be a good person to reach out to.
And even help with the communications with,
Yeah.
It just sounds like a natural resource for this.
Mm-hmm.
Just in talking about timelines, well, let me jump ahead. So, in the different buckets of fundraising that we've talked about so far, the carved gift brick campaign is probably the most pressing, just because we want to get it out there for Christmas, right, for holidays shopping. We could easily, I think, do that. I don't know that people who would buy a brick would necessarily be expecting a tax benefit,
Exactly.
you know, so we could really execute
I
that
think so.
Right.
with the 501c4. And then with the corporate and private sponsorships, we're not going to do anything with that until we get the design.
Mhm.
So that's months away anyway.
And we would need the 501c3 for that, no corporate.
Yeah, that's going to be a given.
That.
And
Yeah.
so that may just have to, if we don't get the 501c3 for that, then we're just going to have to walk away from that.
But we can
probably.
still ask for volunteering time, which they might volunteer.
I don't know if their
They-
volunteer hours count unless they're doing it with a 501c3.
Right, because they would be able to write off the expenditure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
But in
But
terms of
there's-
timing, we could still do the gift brick thing
Yeah,
first.
With the monies going into the current one.
Right.
And you're okay with receiving those monies while we're creating said board?
As long as we have the books in place and have the board in place, someone other than just me to say, you know, we're taking in this much money
Yeah.
and,
So you would feel comfortable, I just kind of like for my notes, I kind of want to say, okay, finalized here.
yeah, I mean, as long as we have a five-person board with, someone with knowledge to set up the books, to manage the funds, to reconcile the payments for the
Okay.
gift bricks.
But I think there's other fundraising things along the lines of not getting people involved. There's all sorts of restaurants that do fundraising things. I mean, I've been looking around Muya's, Chipotle's, all sorts of places, I think Applebee's, all sorts of places where people go in and buy dinner and they do not expect it to go tax deductible. They just
Right.
expect it to
Benefit, absolutely.
benefit.
And so
Oh
we
yeah,
could do
I think
those
we'll
too.
still do okay. We might
Mhm.
miss out on some other things, but it's still worth doing, even if
Right.
it's not tax deductible.
But we need to find somebody to lead the 501c3 thing. We
Okay.
need to find somebody that's
So we're
willing
happy
to.
to start receiving money as a 501c4.
But I think only if we get the people, who gets the
start
people.
leading
We'll get it up for board. I'm not really concerned about that.
501c3.
And we can
Okay.
set up a system for the
to
books.
lead that change over kind of ASAP.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Then do we think I should even bother contacting like the Ann Sullivan Center or kind of following
They
up?
are actually,
And I don't know what they are, my thought was.
they are a state organization.
Okay,
Hmm.
that's fair. So I won't contact them. I'm not gonna get upset when the Bell Center says no. Because I think this is actually a better path forward
I think so.
than one of these tax pass-throughs to begin
Plus,
with.
long-term,
Right.
we'll have a 501c3 for the park, it's for the whole,
Absolutely.
Roberts Field as a whole, so
Yes.
Which is why we like the idea of going, again, like we talked about last week, why we like the idea of going through your already.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, because
Yeah.
when it comes to all the other things we're gonna do to the whole, to Roberts Field itself, we could
Yeah.
have fundraisers, well,
Right.
yeah, it's all established for the future.
Then you get more people than just also.
So, Adele,
Yes.
you said that you would lead the grant writing
Yes.
part?
Well, right now I'm in grant research mode, trying to get some advice from friends, and so far the Hive Mind has not gotten back to me, which means I'm going to have to work through the library.
Okay. That probably, I need to check with the town treasurer, but that seems to me that you would apply for a grant on behalf of the town, that you wouldn't necessarily apply for a grant on behalf of the Friends of Roberts Field, who then would turn it over.
We can do both.
So I would think that we'd want to do it on behalf of the town.
Doing it on the behalf of the town limits the number of grants. There are far more grants out there for playground design as opposed to government-built playgrounds.
So you can't apply for the private ones as a municipality? Is that what? Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
We have to have our separate,
Okay.
Have you done much Google searching for grants?
not yet. I've been doing a lot of Google
Right.
searching for
Other things.
other
Because
things.
my sister's friend does grant writing basically for a living, and she said, really, first thing you do is just get on Google, which I haven't
Yeah.
gotten around to doing yet, but I will be I'll pick her brain some too, so.
So I guess then, if you're starting the database of that, then you could start that, and then I guess maybe until we get a 501c3, just focus on the municipal ones, right?
Yep.
And then you could work with the DPW. They said that they had a
Okay.
person there that would work with that as well.
And some of the playground sites, when I was going to their sites, some of them have fundraising packets that if you
Yes.
go with
Right.
them, they will just be like, we will support you because we know if you don't get this fundraising money, we don't get to build a playground. So there's whole like setups of, it's like they do this for a business or something. So I think we might have more guidance on fundraising once we get into going forward with it,
Okay.
Okay.
depending on who we use or whatever.
So, do we want to start moving forward with the gift brick campaign then? Getting the materials ready? I mean, we need brochures and order forms and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do we want to go ahead and start doing that, or do we want to, do we definitely want to do a gift brick campaign?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I
do,
think
yes.
so,
I think
yeah.
that's the right thing to do.
I think everyone's in agreement on that one.
Okay.
I can do this. My brother-in-law is a graphic designer, so he owes me.
I think the biggest thing with that right now is to pick a company, because it seems like there's like 3 or 4, maybe there's probably a lot more. I've just seen 3 or 4
Yeah.
online. And they have sort of these turnkey things where it's you just basically decide, okay, we want to sell, you know, a 4x8 and an 8x8, and then they
Yeah.
produce a website for you. It's easy.
And then as people order and pay, they just produce them for us, and that's how they're.
It goes. They take the credit card transaction, and then you debit that stuff out through a PayPal account.
Yeah, you lose,
Right.
I think, a little
They
bit,
take
you
a
know,
piece
for
of-
them.
right,
Yeah, they
yeah,
take
'cause
some off the top, but, you know, that's
They're gonna
like,
get paid.
And
Yeah.
you decide how much you want your upcharge to be. So if it's like $8 a brick, you know, I saw a lot of bricks that were like $100, $50. Some were like $500. Like,
yeah. No, I think we looked like
Maybe not
50
for a
to
playground.
100, because I want to say for our fence picket that we paid for Littleton was, you know, 75 or something. And
Yeah.
I felt like, I didn't know it was tax deductible at the time, but I was just like, oh, okay, you know, like, that's a fair thing for our family. You write your family's
Right.
name on it. You know, too much higher, you're gonna really, people aren't gonna want to do anything with that. You want to make it.
But you would be surprised how many professional
Absolutely.
well,
a
that's
lot
the
of
other-
might want to do something bigger.
Yeah, the corporations, I'm
Yeah.
sure, are gonna wanna do big
Yeah, I think
sponsorships,
Dunkin'
but we need
Donuts
to be a
bought like 10,
503
you
to do
know,
that.
and
Yeah.
that's fine. So it's like names, Dunkin' Donuts, names, Dunkin' Donuts. But that's okay.
But again, they probably won't do it unless, they probably have a corporate policy that says we cannot donate unless it's
Yeah, maybe.
503.
Yeah,
And
maybe
it's
not. It depends. You know, some of the like independent people.
Like a, like a small
locally
business,
might
small business might,
still
yeah.
do
So
that.
what does a 501c4, I mean, what is
It's
the?
just a nonprofit that's not tax.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't have to
really
pay
the
taxes
biggest thing.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So it's
we-
easier to
we
set up,
did-
I believe, right?
We did like little fundraisers for the 2 benches that are out there now and some of the garden stuff.
Yeah.
I would have had to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it wasn't organized as a 501c4.
You know, I guess but I assume you wouldn't pay taxes on a 501c3.
No, but you,
So I
guess
no, but the
that's what I'm
donations
trying to
themselves are
figure
not tax deductible, whereas this,
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm wondering what else.
That's
I'll look
really
into
the
Yeah.
big difference right
Yeah.
there. That's it.
Yeah.
There's not a ton.
There's if you want, there's a link. I thought I put it on here, but I guess I didn't. I can send it to you. There's a link that describes the differences between the different types of nonprofits.
Okay.
So,
So
did
for
I
our
hear you
next
say that
meeting-
you were willing to do
Yeah.
the gift brick campaign?
So for our next meeting, like, do you guys need me to do something crazy and present, you know, multiple options? Or can I just be like, here's the one that I've picked, here's what I'm thinking in terms of the final cost, the upcharge, and that's good for you?
I'm fine with you picking something and just, like, you know, showing us a recommendation. I don't think we
Like,
need
just pick one and.
Yeah, I mean, how,
If you
how
find some
different are they
major
gonna be?
difference that
I
you
mean,
think that is like
Okay.
worth voting on,
Yeah.
cool.
But I mean, I'll bring it to you before I, you know, set it up and everything so that we can say like, okay, yep, this is the size
Yeah,
bricks that we're thinking and this is the price that we're thinking and X amount of that comes to us and we lose 5% on every transaction, you know.
Right.
Just the
And I don't
really
know if
basics.
they generally do this, but I think with the dog park, you could buy a brick, but you could also get like your own personal mini brick. Like there were variations where you could,
Oh.
not only would you get a brick that was out there, but you had your own little mini brick that you had
Oh.
that you
take
could,
home.
that it basically like, I have a brick. You know it's out there, but you have like a little tiny like eraser
Like you would
size.
wear it around your neck or something?
No, like they have a little eraser size. I don't know. It's
Okay.
just kind of
Put on your mantle
like
at
a
home.
token.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just kind of a
Yeah,
So
I'm
peop-
probably not gonna, like, my vote is none of that crap, for less of nicer words,
Well, I've
sorry.
seen, I've seen that they have maps, like they'll provide a map of where everybody's brick is so people can find them. That's kind of one of the nice new extras and.
That would be after it was,
Yeah,
because we're
I
not
don't
gonna
know
build
that
a
I'm
map
gonna-
and then say, oh, this brick has to go here, this brick, because
Yeah,
when
I
they
don't
lay
know
the
that I'm
bricks,
gonna
it's just like,
build
let's lay the
that
bricks,
in.
like, we're not
No,
gonna
I
be like,
think
hey,
what he's saying is
Some
that-
do have that. I've seen them offer that as a service,
Yeah,
so.
But I'm saying, I don't know that I'm initially gonna
Right.
offer that.
I don't think the
because-
DPW is gonna go for that.
No, I'm not gonna do
There's no
that.
Yeah.
So, the
Just gonna
link
wanna
that's
lay
on
the
there
brick.
has at least one company
Yep,
that
I
has a
know.
ton of information. That might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
And then, what I was thinking was that, with the corporate and private sponsorships, if we have a company that, donates for a particular piece of equipment, that we could actually use whatever the larger brick is that we use for the cell as like a marker for them to kind of tie into to the brick pathway. Something I wanted to talk with you
Oh.
guys about. So
I
like,
don't know if I
like
can.
if you did like a roundabout, it would actually be embedded somewhere near the roundabout,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be consistent with what we already had on site, rather than a brass plaque or something like
Right,
that.
yeah, I see what
It's
you're
cost
saying.
efficient too.
So just using like a bigger brick kind of thing.
Right.
But because of the way the website is structured, who's buying said brick? I gotta put in a credit card.
We can we can work that part out later. I was just saying that just from a just.
And that would be more of, again, more of like a corporate thing anyway, so we wouldn't we'd
Okay.
do that later, yeah.
I mean, we need, for the
Private.
corporate part of it, we need to talk about as a committee, what the levels are, all of that stuff. So,
Mhm.
that's later.
Who actually lays it down, DPW, or these
I think the-
companies actually provide?
We'll have to, I don't think the DPW will, we'll have to find a company that would,
They wouldn't lay the bricks? You don't,
I mean, they're building.
I
the
thought
walkway.
they didn't do the ones that are there? I thought they did. I thought he was saying they did.
They're gonna supervise the
I think they
board
would
here
contract
to
that
lay
out.
them.
That's a really specific thing. I think they would contract that out. I don't.
Really?
Aren't
maybe-
they laying
People
like a
make brick
million
patios.
bricks?
That's all the
I've
time.
done my own, yeah.
I have two, but I don't, I mean, we'll,
It's really
I
not,
was gonna say,
no,
that
I'd be
I know
shocked.
they just did like brick sidewalks all around the center, I assume they,
we'll talk to Steve and see
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they do, but
We
my
can-
understanding is that it's something we'd have to contract out, and I think we might be successful in finding somebody to donate that service too, so. Just something we can
Maybe,
look
or
at.
just make that as part of the community build, or
Yeah,
have a
'cause
separate mini build with DPW supervising a
Because if you
couple
think
of
about it,
people.
if the donations don't cover the cost of actually putting it in,
Yeah.
then it doesn't really help.
We build
Right.
that into the cost, right?
Yeah.
So if it's $8 a brick, then we charge 50, then would have to back out whatever,
Right, whatever cost to, yeah.
or get it donated.
All right.
I mean, we need a path either way, so
Can I
that's part of
email
the-
Steve directly about
Sure.
this,
Okay,
or is
yeah.
that like, I don't know about contact people? Okay, I can
On
just say,
here.
like, I'm looking, I'm gonna head this up.
Right
and
now
so
we
I
have
just
a
wanna hear from you how.
Island
Yeah.
playground.
Yeah.
That's not really.
I mean, one possibility is you lay a plain brick walkway, right?
Yeah,
And then as people come in with the bricks, then you just pull a plain brick out and drop the other. If you haven't cemented it, you could actually just
Yeah.
replace them. And you can build it over time, and you still have the walkway home.
yeah.
And I think that's how the original one was
Yeah.
built.
I think
And how
that's
he
common.
talked about making a new path, I think the new path should be the new bricks.
Right,
I just
I
think it's
agree.
a lovely tie-in, and
Mhm.
moving it up and making it accessible and
From the parking lot.
from the
to-
upper lot.
Upper lot, yeah.
So not into the interior, because one of the things I wanted to talk about was the meditation labyrinth, which we didn't include in the design considerations. Could be potentially these gift bricks as well, if we had enough, potentially.
Meditation,
That's, I guess, another question too. Well, I guess,
labyrinth. I guess I never have thought much about what that is.
It's
Adele?
basically a spiral that you walk around.
But where is that gonna be?
I
In the
can-
playground, outside?
Outside the playground, I think.
Outside the
Or,
playground.
or inside, right? Because I think we had said that it could be inside or outside, if they could accommodate it in the design.
but if it's inside, then that's a hard surface. Do you want that hard surface
not
inside the
inside.
playground?
It could be in the landform area that gets mowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still get kids running around and they trip and fall and,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? I don't know.
I think it
Because
should be
it's-
outside.
I wouldn't want to have any hard surfaces inside the playground.
Not even a brick pathway leading to stuff?
You're going to have hard surfaces
Yeah.
within the playground
Well,
because
I
you've got to
guess,
have
yeah.
pathways.
I thought the pathways were going to be the
Rubber.
poured rubber surfaces and all that stuff. That's what I thought.
That was my
We-
total
I didn't think we were going to have any like paved pathways or
We
any of that stuff.
Budgeted for that, just to put a hard number to it, but the idea was that the the resilient fall materials would be around the equipment per se. So if somebody has a chance of falling on something, they wouldn't, it would be the resilient fall material, but otherwise it could be any kind of material.
As
Okay.
long as people can, wheelchairs can roll well.
Uh-huh.
It isn't prone to sinking,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
You don't have weird edges between the board in place and the brick or
Right.
whatever.
So are
But
we
I know
good?
Steve was really upset, or I shouldn't say upset, but was concerned about having multiple surfaces inside the playground. This is, I guess, why I'm also concerned, or not concerned, but confused. I remember he was saying he didn't want like too many like switching from surfaces from a maintenance
I
standpoint.
didn't hear that. No, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Oh, I thought
Well,
I
no,
heard
yeah,
him
he
say
didn't
that.
want to have like an area with a poured rubber and then like grass.
Right, he doesn't want
You know
to
what I
have
mean? He
to
doesn't wanna
mow
have-
like this circle and this circle and this circle
Right.
around the board in place.
But so like having chips and then these other things are cool. I guess I just missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, I
Sometimes
think
I'm
that-
taking notes.
He's
and
like, I don't want to have to mow where kids are going to be playing. He's like, I
Okay,
want to be able to, if you're going to
Sure,
have
and I get
grass, we need to
that.
have the grass like in a separate part
Right.
and not all over the place. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird.
I don't think any of the other, I don't know,
Yeah.
any of the other surfaces require, equipment that's dangerous to children, sort of maintenance thing, which is, I think was his concern was that he wants to be able to block off whatever that area, so he didn't want like,
Well, bricks
strips.
and weeds, not to be annoying, but I mean, I have brick pathways and the weeding on
Right.
them, so I don't know how he's gonna
That's-
feel about that. And, you know,
Well,
they
that
put
already-
sand.
that already exists, right? The bricks
Well, but
already
that's out
exist.
front, that's outside the playground. So it's a separate maintenance
Yeah,
thing.
the expectations that we had in the master plan were that it would be a mix of surfaces. So,
Okay.
and that
Somehow I
includes
just
sand
don't
and
know.
all of its stuff too. So,
Okay.
but once again, that's going to come down to the design, I think.
Right.
Well, I think we'll just, see what we get for bricks and
Then figure out what to do with
figure
them.
out.
But I think it's good if you guys all agree that we should plan on the sort of a tier of, if we do the Griff bricks, the first place that we'd put them was from the upper parking lot to connect to the.
I agree.
thing,
Yeah, that's what I
right?
think is number one. Yeah.
And here
Let us
again,
tie
it
in.
depends on the designer. But then if we have enough to go beyond that, if we went inside, we could connect into the meditation labyrinth if we wanted to do that,
Okay.
or other. So, but again, it comes down to the design.
I guess my own personal random opinion about the meditation labyrinth is it's not very meditation if you're reading names of Dunkin' Donuts and whatever. So I would think that if you want to do if the whole goal was the whole nature thing, and the meditation labyrinth would be more
Quotes and stuff.
naturey or less,
Advertisement.
yes.
Well, but some people you don't get to control is the thing what people put on it. Well, you can control
Right,
a
well,
little
that's
bit.
what I'm
Some
saying,
people
but-
will put like, with love, Jimmy from Mom.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying is
You don't
the
wanna make
meditation just for the meditation
Yeah,
labyrinth.
no, I
think the
understand.
whole pathway or whatever, but if you're gonna do a meditation labyrinth,
Yeah,
you might as
I
well
get it.
do it with some
Plain.
other.
We could do that.
Oh,
We
hard
could,
pack.
we could construct a number of different quotes and sell those, and let people buy those. I mean, we could.
That's something.
Yeah.
If someone else
I
wants
like
to
that.
coordinate.
So let's
quotes on-
let's sort of meditate on that a little bit.
Right.
Alrighty.
I
Any
actually
other-
have a friend who
Any other
kind of
comments?
does
or,
that, so I may ask her.
Any other
in her
comments or
copious
questions about
spare time.
these fundraising bullets?
I don't think so.
The online survey. So these are the things that we're going to talk about next. So I'll cover off on the draft of the survey and then the Dream Playground format. The last day to play, I comped up just an image with something you might either love or hate. We'll see. And the tree protection guidelines. Jim's going to walk us through those, and then we'll have to update the milestone draft. So this is the survey. And it's really hard to read. I think you had said that you felt like, Daniil, you felt like the two headlines were redundant,
Yes.
that we should just do one.
Yes.
Does everybody agree with that?
It's not like I'm
Help
gonna
build
get
your
upset
dream
with
playground
anybody
in
else,
Chelmsford
just my
City.
own personal.
Help build your dream playground in Chelmsford today, and then please share your voice about rebuilding Friendship Park Playground at Roberts Field.
Yeah, I agree. It is kind of redundant. Yeah.
Which one do you want to get rid of?
I would get the one in white gone.
Yeah, so you're saying get rid of the help build your dream playground?
I'm saying
Especially
I'm saying
since
get
we
rid of
don't know
please
how-
share your voice, because right below that, we go into your feedback is important. Please, please. I don't know. I was also like an English major, so the pleases are close.
Well, the other thing is, I think we want to avoid things like a dream playground, because that gives people the sense that we will be definitely picking from what they say.
We will be committed to each and every individual dream.
You could put in, help us with the design of the new
Yeah.
playground.
Help
Of the new-
design.
Help,
I would just
Our
go
new
help
playground.
design. Yeah,
yeah, help us with the design of the new Friendship Park.
but you got to strike out with like just help design
Okay.
the new Friendship Park. You got to
Sure.
make it short. So
I like
did
it.
headline right.
No, you're fine. Nope. You're right. You're right.
You want to keep that part just short. You cut out the
Help-
little.
Yeah, help design
Yeah. Help design the new Friendship Park.
Yeah,
Nothing below it, and then just start with your feedback is important.
yeah. I
Okay.
like that.
That's how I dig it. That's how I envision it, but I'm
Nope,
super
I like that.
open to other people.
And Marcus,
No, I
a lot of
don't
your,
like it.
a lot of your comments were around trying to generate, volunteers for the community. Is it build or built?
Build.
Build.
Build with the
The
D?
D.
D.
So I've seen
Yeah.
both. I'll make those changes throughout.
As long as you're consistent, no one's gonna.
No one's gonna. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I tried to include that in, in this verbiage, right? Because basically with this survey, you can collect a name and an email address, for,
Right.
to sign up for, right? And then and then I think once we get closer to starting to really schedule stuff, we can send out another survey, or at least just contact the people that have already signed up,
Okay.
right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
What else? And then I added in an email link, a link to the Friends of Roberts Field group
Yep.
on Facebook, and then a link to the webpage. And in this middle paragraph, I know it's a lot of detail, but I felt like we needed to kind of set the plate for what we are expecting the playground to be. That's why I included the mix of natural landform play areas, prefab natural playground equipment, resilient fall material surfaces, so they know that they don't have to say that over again, that we at least plan for it
Right.
ahead of time. Do
I
you
like
think it's
that.
too much?
Nope. I think it's fine.
I have a question. That says ADA accessible, and I'm still confused by you having him strike that from the thing. I know we don't want it to just be ADA accessible, but I'm confused as to why we don't want it to
Let me
be included.
explain. ADA accessible is very restrictive. It is only about the child involved with the
Yeah.
play. It does not say anything about whether that, if there's room for an aid, if that child has an aid, or how that child might use that equipment with another playmate who might not be handicapped or who might also be handicapped. It just addresses whether that child can physically use that piece of equipment.
Right.
I just want the
But-
broadest term that covers the biggest umbrella. in
Right.
terms
So can we
of-
just strike out ADA, the new accessible, because it's
Or
accessible?
inclusive?
Yeah, inclusive should
Well,
probably
inclusive
be
and
in there.
universal design do the same thing, right?
No.
No?
No.
Universal design talks about making a space usable by almost anyone.
Which is universal.
But there's no age range there. It's, inclusive design specifically talks about barriers that, that children with disabilities have a tendency to come up against, like electrostatic discharge on plastic slides,
Doesn't it also
or,
include the ability to play with a varied levels of ability, multiple children with varied levels of ability? I think
Yeah.
inclusive means that multiple people of varying levels of ability can work, do things together, versus universal design would allow, like, maybe any individual thing can be accessible to any individual person, but it does not necessarily allow peer.
Can I make the
Like-
suggestion that we just strike out ADA, equipment for the new inclusive, about the new accessible, inclusive, and universally designed? That way, if like it doesn't fall within
Yeah.
exact ADA,
It
and then
covers.
it touches all
it will
those.
exceed ADA by, and that's the
Yeah.
problem with using it.
I'm gonna recommend you capping that.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, universal design is a term of art
And
and does
inclusive.
need to be
Oh.
capitalized.
So accessible,
I didn't know that.
inclusive, and universal are all capitalized?
Yeah,
Mhm.
even though
Okay.
technically you may not, I mean, English-wise.
I was gonna say technically I'm surprised about that, but there's things I don't know.
Well, if it's a subtype of particular thing,
Yeah, if it's actually a
so
thing,
if an inclusive design or a universal design are
it's a
known.
proper noun.
Effectively, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm an engineer.
No, yeah, no, I know. What I'm saying, it's a person.
Me
thing.
speak English sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments? I'll
Okay.
make those changes.
I'm not gonna battle about capitalization, but like, I just think if it says accessible, inclusive, and universal, we're good then. Yeah, I think that's good.
Good.
I like it.
All right, so my goal with this, with all surveys, is to keep it as short as possible, right? The first question I think is important, but I'll defer to you guys. It's about usage, and I felt like if we had a usage question, if we had, we could drill down into some of the responses later. So like if somebody says, you know, very important on a particular piece of equipment, we can go back and look and see if they are heavy users or light users of the park.
See, I debated about saying something about this question a lot because, well, I came to the conclusion I wasn't going to say something because of exactly what you just said, but the one thing I do want to caution us about is it's possible people don't use these things now because it's not set up for them to use them. So if you say, oh, well, they only come monthly, but they have strong feelings, that may not necessarily be like, well, they only come monthly now, but if the park was in better shape or had availability for then
Things they could use.
they would be using it more.
That's a good
So
point.
I don't want us to read that and then do a whole bunch of metadata
Yes,
manipulation.
I-
So how often do
100%.
you anticipate, would that cover it? If you just say, how often do you anticipate visiting Friendship Park?
No, I think her point is that that it might not be valid information. Like if we look at a usage for a particular type of equipment to try and make a judgment on if we should include it or not, that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Right, I think what he just said is that if we ask them how much do you expect to use it versus how much do you currently use it,
Gotcha.
if you specify a forward-looking thing of if we make it better, how much do you think you'd be there?
Okay.
That might be a more
Yeah.
functional test of what we're
That might,
looking
yeah,
for.
that will
So we either
The
strike
buy-in
it
should
or
be
change it to expect.
That's my personal.
change it to expect.
You guys want to keep it?
How often do you expect to visit the new Friendship Park? Maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay. And that would change it from your previous surveys, which I think have,
Because then that would be more reliable. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah, it
more
would change
indicative
it,
of
yeah.
people's buy-in to the future
Mhm.
of what it will be as opposed to the broken down liability
sense.
park that it is now.
I'll throw out something, this is really picky, but sort of, you know, you get daily, weekly, monthly, I'd strike up to 2 to 3 times per week. If you have that, then why not have it 2 or 3 times per month and so forth? I just have daily, weekly, monthly,
Yeah.
and a bullet that says less often, and be done.
Yeah.
I like daily, weekly, monthly, other. They can write
Yeah.
once a year in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 times per
Take,
week.
yeah, take out 2, yeah.
Daily, weekly, monthly, less.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Or
think
more,
I think-
multiple times a day. We
I
have
think
been there
other-
multiple times a day.
yeah.
And then my nitpicky thing on the kids was just say under 2 years instead of 6 months. Because sometimes you're bringing your newborn. Like I was wearing my newborn while my big kid was playing, you know. It's
Yeah.
super nitpicky. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I guess the only thing is.
Yeah, I like that you
if-
fixed this.
If you're
versus
looking
having
for
1, 2, 3,
what
and 4.
usage, you may bring your newborn, but although, and I
Just say
don't
less
know if
than
this is
2.
a good time to bring this up, and I don't know if it should be brought up, and this is a whole other thing. If you bring your newborn, as I have, you have,
Yeah.
and if you are a nursing mother,
Yeah.
there was a park I went to which had Adirondack chairs, which were set up so that people had a space which was more comfortable to nurse while they.
I mean, I'm super used to not having it.
Right. I'm just
So,
saying.
like, if
I
there's
know
a
that's
bench,
whole-
it's a bonus.
Exactly.
Like, cool.
So as I said, this is a topic that you can but
Yeah.
I will say that I was excited when I found like a slightly more comfortable
Yeah.
than balancing on the side of a bench.
Yeah.
We could get
Picnic
some,
table
we could
works
get some
well, too,
Adirondack chairs
sitting in-
donated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah.
So suggestion on that first, that says 6 months to 22 months? Why don't you say under 2 years?
That's what
Yeah,
I
so we were
said
just
to
talking about,
Bill.
yeah,
I asked
do like
him
a
to
little,
say under
less
2.
than 2 years, kind of.
Yeah, less than 2 years,
Yep,
yeah.
get that.
It's a nitpicky thing.
No, it's good. It's all good stuff. And then the 2 to 5 and 6 to 12 kind of matches up with what the playground standards are, so that'll
Right.
give us
Right.
That makes good.
Yes.
something to look at.
Yeah.
Any other comments on those two?
Nope.
I think
I
the
can't
playground
read
standards
them,
usually
so-
say 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, which is obvious. Those 5-year-olds can go anywhere they want.
So the third question, which is, I was trying to write something that would just sort of catch anything, people's feelings about special needs. Do you or any of your children you bring to Friendship Park have any special needs or considerations that should be accounted for in the new playground design and equipment selection? Please be specific.
I think that's a good one.
I'd say, again, you're doing the direct, you tell us this and we'll provide it. So I think,
Or maybe you should say that should be considered,
Yeah,
Yeah.
accounted
considered.
for.
Say considered and you.
We don't have consideration.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah,
can't,
that's
you
true,
cannot
yeah.
do
Yeah,
that.
let's keep that
Special
out.
That
needs
should-
or issues.
should be, that
Just-
you would
oh.
like addressed.
Or any special needs that should be considered
Yeah,
in the design or equipment of Friendship Park.
That sounds good.
Yeah, do you have any special needs that should be considered
I mean,
in the new design?
Well, it needs to be you or the children, right? Because it
Right.
could be a parent that has,
Right, do you or any of the children
Right.
you bring to Friendship Park have any special needs that need to be considered
In
in
the,
the new playground design and equipment?
there you go.
When you finish that, Bill, can you just back up?
so basically instead of accounted for, it should just be considered.
Yeah,
You can say-
it's kind of striking out that other consideration, moving it.
Excuse me. Back up to the previous slide, Barry?
Yeah, just to make it consistent, I would say what age children, will you be bringing when you do expect to bring to Friendship Park?
The tense bothers me too.
I don't,
I
you
feel
have to,
ya.
I don't know, where you, which one are you talking about?
Well, number one, it's, you change it to how often will you be visiting? and
Oh.
you expect to visit. Number two should be consistent and tense, so
Yes.
make it a feature.
Right.
The problem is, of course, not all of the data we're trying to get applies to the future. The tense really bothers me too. I feel your pain.
I get
However,
you.
I don't think, I
you
think
can
we're
say
asking.
what age children do you expect to bring to
Or will you
Friendship Park?
bring, period, that's fine.
Yeah, what age children will you bring to Friendship Park? Yeah.
What age children?
Danelle's still, she's,
Yeah.
she's over there. And I get it, because.
It's just the writer in
You
me.
wanna know what they're doing today, and.
Yeah.
you wanna know
Yeah.
what
Okay, so we're good on this one then? Will you bring?
I think future will be today. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah.
The future is now.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
no,
not going to be
it's
that.
fine.
I don't think it's going to be that drastic of a
park's not gonna
change versus
exist
what
in
people do
about
today
4
and what people are
weeks,
going to do in
so,
Yep,
6
it's fine.
months.
It's truly
We're
fine.
good on this one?
Yeah.
So this is the list, this is really the meat of the survey, this is really the point of why we're doing it. How important are the following types of playground features and equipment to you?
What if you don't know what half of them are?
You have to look them up.
Google it.
I thought this was fine. You know, maybe a little on the lengthy side, but
Are there any that we, I mean, we have the catch-all at the bottom that people can type in.
Right, yeah. I don't think we need to add anything
No,
to it.
it's yours.
I think it fits on a page. It's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. Fits
We
on
don't
a
want it to
page.
go beyond that.
Adele?
I'm sorry, I missed the question completely.
Are you
Uh,
okay?
Mostly because I can't read.
Yeah,
Here,
it's
I
it's
can
really small.
I can bring it up for you to see over here.
No, I'm having a vision problem to begin with, so that's,
Well, if you, I don't.
Have a thought. Would you want to put a column in there, no opinion? That way, people aren't guessing, well,
I agree with that.
I really
totally
like that
agree.
idea.
I do.
Wow, brilliant. I love it.
And we brought you this meeting.
yeah, I know. Every once in a while, it slips out. I'm good for the year.
Well, doesn't not at all
Relation to
important kind of cover that?
Just, yeah.
No?
Applicable,
Does
not
it not at all-
interested.
Not all important.
It says not all important, so doesn't that
Or
kind of?
no opinion.
Well,
No
it's up there, yeah. Now,
I understand that, it's
Yeah.
semantics.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would write no opinion,
Yeah,
because some
no-
people don't care.
You wanna
Saying
change,
not important makes it sound like a vote against it, but no opinion is
so
a different-
change not at all important to no opinion?
No.
No, I think you added.
No, having a,
It's a
Add?
little, becomes a little redundant.
Isn't it the
but it's
same thing
because of the
though?
way it's structured.
You don't think it's the same? I think it's the same thing.
Technically it is, however.
however, how it's interpreted on
Yes.
this is a scale, the way it's set up is a
Think
scale.
of it as like the pain management
It's like a 1 to
scale.
5, and if
These
you
are
do
the
a
words at
not
the
at
top.
all important,
Most people won't actually read the words at the top. There's a fun bit of information.
Yeah, that's
for
true.
you.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
The other thing is, if somebody says it's not important, that is saying something, that it is not important, as opposed to, I don't want to comment on it.
Right.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
right.
There's a different.
People who feel negatively against it will say it's not important, whereas people who don't really care
Are neutral.
are neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They may not want to say it's somewhat important.
Any other comments on this one? Dell, did you have a chance to
sorry.
look at it?
You should zip one.
Yeah, I want to know how much the town's insurance is going to go up if we have one.
I don't know.
Mm.
I guess that's
But
gonna
zip
be
lines.
their problem. Don't bring it up now. Don't. Now they're gonna think about it.
Good, okay. So the next, do you have any comments, questions, or concerns about rebuilding Friendship Park? This was just mainly to try to grab any sort of extra thoughts or comments about anything.
Yeah, I think that's
I had a
fine.
question actually about number 6, only in that, can they complete the survey? Because I didn't actually try to click through it without filling in that information. They can't, okay, so it
None of
becomes
these-
an optional.
Yeah, none of these are,
Sweet.
are mandatory.
So I was like, I would hope they wouldn't do it and then not want to provide it, but if they do it and then not provide it, if they can still submit it, I still want that info. Okay, great, thanks, Bill.
Do you want to say this, that police provides the option to provide?
I really want to encourage people to do it.
We
You could
really
put a
need-
parenthesis at the end that says optional if you're,
Right,
if
you
you
can
want,
put an
but-
asterisk
like an
and
asterisk
say
that says
in the
optional,
bottom,
but
optional,
In really tiny
in really
print.
tiny print, so it is clear that it's optional if someone's like, but
I mean, if they just skip it and go to done, it'll parse through,
Right.
so it'll be fine.
yeah.
I really want to encourage people to sign
I do
up.
too.
I-
I do
Yeah.
too.
I
We
agree.
need it. I mean, that's.
Right. I mean, that's the other real
reality.
benefit of this survey, I think, is to grab people. Now,
I agree.
grab names.
And you can
Yeah.
also start building your email list.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
That's exactly right.
That's what the point is, yeah.
We're gonna need it.
So we're
for
good with that?
volunteers, you
I think,
just
yes.
don't know your sign.
Other questions? We could look at where people are coming from. Don't know if that would be
I don't
necessarily.
think it changes
No.
anything
I don't-
for
yeah, I
us,
agree.
so it's not data that we can do anything or,
I mean, the only thing it would do is in terms of people who are more or less likely to do a community build, maybe, but still.
That's what I was thinking too. It might
That's-
give us some
Or it
places.
could,
of
or
where
it
we
could tell us
target.
where we could also try to do fundraising if,
It could actually, honestly, it could actually end up being a negative because we could end up getting a lot of people from out of town, and then a lot of people are from in
Yeah.
town are going to be like, "Why are we spending all this money for people to come
Right.
from out of town to use this?"
so maybe no.
I think you just leave that out.
Yeah. And I mean, I was curious about the days a week and time, and just for again for the community build stuff, right? Like when we're trying to schedule out, I just don't know if is it the time to put this in this survey, or to your point, should we put this in something later on, like when we send out the emails to say, hey, you submitted your email saying you're interested in the community build. When would you be available? Would that be more of a more appropriate time to do it? I probably.
I think so, and then
Yeah.
we would actually have a schedule probably in front of us
Yeah,
to start
that makes-
sort of filling in,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
and we could get into more like what types of activities people would want to get into. As
Yeah,
well,
I agree.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be after we have a design.
Yeah.
Right.
We're getting
Yeah.
Once
closer.
we, yeah, we're
People can be
close
excited
to
about
that,
building
and
that
it's- everything's
specific.
gonna start to move fast,
Mhm.
although it moves slowly.
And I'm assuming if they give us their
Actually,
information, they're interested in helping, right? It's
Right.
kind of an applied.
Right,
So.
and then we have the name, so then we can have that follow.
Yeah.
Follow-up.
Okay.
Future.
Nope.
And the
I like
plan
that.
is to add them to sort of the email list that we have going now, that I think we have 80 names on, that we send out, you know, when we have meetings, we send out the meeting
Yes.
requests and all those things, so, and then I was thinking that we would have a separate list that would be a volunteer-specific list that would sort of move people over,
Mhm.
migrate people over to, so we have that built as well.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
can talk about that stuff later.
Okay.
And Bill, looking at your first bullet, and it says visiting from, something that could be very useful. If you had a question that says how far you travel, 2 miles, like less than a mile, 1 to 2 miles, 5 miles, that's gonna give you a spread. And where that can be handy is when you go to look for volunteers for the build, you know, if you know the demographics are saying that almost everybody that visits it within a mile, it's kind of a different picture than if people are spread out 10 miles or something like that.
It might affect fundraising.
What's that?
It might affect where we try to do fundraising.
How you try to do fundraising and how you try to solicit volunteers for the building.
I agree that it could be helpful. I don't know that it's part of this survey, though, because I see this survey as really the main focus, importance of this survey, from my perspective, is the types of equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to your point though, we can include that in this, when we send out for the volunteers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we were saying the other downside to it too might be that it might show that there's a lot of people from outside of Chelmsford that are gonna be using the playground, which might end up creating a bad taste in some folks' mouth if they see that. You know what I mean?
Some people are very town-centric.
I think we're gonna end up getting a lot of people who maybe don't currently use Friendship Park, who will be using Friendship Park, maybe,
Right.
to fill out the survey, so it may not be necessarily accurate, you know what I mean, like,
I mean, right
for
now,
usage.
just about all of the families with children with special needs do go to other towns. They have to.
Right.
So,
And I'm
and they go to several so that there is
Varied,
variety in their child's life. So we're going to become part of the list for anyone within, you know, willing to drive for
Which is-
their kid to be able to have a park.
And that's a good thing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
publicity for the town. If people are coming from out of the town to come to our town to
It's a larger
do that?
community.
Yes,
We're all still part of
absolutely.
the same, you know.
There were a lot of people who didn't want a splash pad because it would draw too many out-of-towners. There are some people who are very town-centric or xenophobic or whatever you want to call it. But as a municipal playground, we're providing a service. We're building it for our community, but that doesn't mean that other communities, people aren't welcome.
right.
And it's not like our children don't go to, you know, parks and other communities.
Exactly.
I think it's, we're doing it for the childhood community of the area, and particularly for, this is, what we're trying to build is something that is not readily available in enough places. And so, yeah, I hope that people who have varied abilities will come from different areas that,
Right.
and that will only help educate and, you know, improve, enrich, that is the word I'm looking for.
I knew it.
Enrich
could
the,
feel it. I was like,
the
it's in your head,
experience
isn't
of
it?
our local kids is, you know, to have those, you know,
Yep.
inclusive play with people from,
All over.
So, how long do we want to have this survey live? I think 3 weeks is sort of the max,
Okay.
in my thinking. I don't know if you guys think it should be
I
longer.
don't have experience in how long
Yeah,
to leave stuff
gotta-
up for that.
The bid close date is now the 21st, so,
Yeah.
we could, you know, start it tomorrow if we wanted to, and then, run
Let's
it.
push it actually a little bit out past December 1st, only for the fact that if that last day to play is in December, I want this survey to still be open.
point.
Okay,
You know, that way we have
Mhm.
wiggle room there, so
Yeah.
can we make it, I don't know, look at a calendar or something?
so
Just,
December, or the second is the weekend after Thanksgiving.
yeah, I think
I-
we were tentative about the 9th, right?
So that was my
with
question,
Steve.
that was one of my questions about the minutes that I'm still trying to scan through while I participate.
Okay.
That it said something about the 9th in there, but it also said the week after Thanksgiving, and those weren't the same, and I didn't remember the 9th, I thought we were just talking about the week after Thanksgiving, but I just don't remember.
Oh, well, I had like asked Steve saying like meeting after Thanksgiving, not like the Saturday when people are still traveling, coming back, meaning the next weekend.
Right, which is
Oh,
the
that's right,
second.
because the second people be coming back from like Thanksgiving and all that
No,
stuff.
no, it's the,
The 9th is the weekend after.
the weekend, the Thanksgiving's on the 23rd.
Maybe I got my dates wrong.
That's
Oh, it's-
talking
oh,
with
you're
Steve,
right.
Because
so
he
Thanks-
agreed not the Saturday
Right.
of, and I got
Oh.
that wrong.
So that, but I'm wondering if the Saturday, I was wondering if the 9th was when they were talking about taking it down. Because that's the week after the week.
Yeah,
after.
that's something we definitely
So that
need
we
to
should
try to
clarify.
finalize with them. But I would say, can we say leave it open till the
yeah,
15th randomly as a date?
Sure, that's a
That
Friday.
way we have lots of wiggle room, so people might have come to the last day to play and forgot to do the survey.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or not open it right away?
We could remind people at that day to do the survey.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that if
Yeah.
we're gonna have that last day, this thing is still live
Yeah.
and you don't have
Right.
to change a link or something.
That's a good idea.
So,
It's easy to do.
thank you for that, cause I clearly got my
Yeah.
dates
I don't know
wrong,
if that was the only thing that was in
I
here,
was
I'm
looking
still
for
looking,
things
but that was, I
you
think,
were,
definitely
so.
something.
Cause I can't read.
The only, just to say, the only benefit to closing it sooner, and even if we close it on the 15th, the playground vendors that are gonna be providing RFPs could still get copies of the finished survey.
Oh, the results if we.
I don't know if they're gonna want it necessarily, but I'm saying you know.
You could do an aggregate, I mean, you could pull the data that you have
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
time. I mean, you could, it's not, it being beneficial to them
It's
is
more us.
separate from being beneficial to us.
We could use it in when looking at the responses to the RFPs.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll leave it open in it. Any other questions on that?
I have something on another subject, another thought for the fundraiser,
Mm-hmm.
other than putting in a little coin box and all tourists. But seriously, how about a raffle ticket?
You can only hold raffles if you're a 501c3, not a C4.
Is that true?
It's absolutely true because that's one thing I looked into. I sound like a crazy person for
Well,
knowing
see,
this.
and there's another difference that I didn't
Yeah.
know between 501c3
Fair
and
enough, it's not
501c4.
one that
I think there's
way.
probably a variety of nitty gritties that unless
yes,
you're
that is a little.
I don't know if
tiny
it's an
nitty-gritty.
accountant or a lawyer who would know all the details, but
That's just one that stood out to me because that was the thought I had on raffles too. It's such a good idea, but.
Oh, we can still do it if we get the.
I've seen lately and
So here's the thing, right? Like lots of people do it illegally, but if we, that's
can't,
not,
right.
that's a no.
No, that's a no.
right.
If we accidentally do it.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all have the best of intentions to
Yeah.
make sure that we're following whatever the rules
Yeah.
are, and
But that
so
is-
as long as we, yeah.
that was
I'm
one
still
thing.
technically an officer of the court.
So we're good with the
Yeah.
survey?
Yeah.
So here's the draft for it says, please draw or describe your dream friendship park playground. And it says to email image to, and I'm gonna set up an email account for that, or mail to, and the town will accept the
The drawing.
mailings.
What, you didn't them all want them coming to your house?
Send
And
them
then
to me,
I
my
just
kids
said
love to
that
get the
the
mail.
new universal design nature themed friendship park playground at Robertsfield will open summer of 2018. So I thought we could use this as, we could put it out there and ask people to do it on the web. We could distribute it however we wanted to distribute it, at the playground on the last day to play.
Elementary schools?
Elementary schools, we wanted to do that. It's just there, we could just get it out there.
Okay.
Should we
Yeah, but-
change will at the bottom, will open summer to should open? I'm just.
No.
No. Okay. I just worry, like, if something goes wrong, but
No.
Steve, I guess, does seem very confident.
It will.
I'm
And if
just
something
so
goes wrong,
used
I
to
don't think
bad
anyone's
things
gonna hold us
happening.
to the My Dream Playground pictures.
Oh,
Although, now that we said
Summer
it.
goes to August 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, it does say summer, right? It doesn't
does
say
say
June.
summer,
It doesn't
that's
say
true.
June,
That's
so that
really
gives
good.
us.
Yeah.
Try talking to people.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I think Will's good. I
I think we'll get it done by the end.
Yeah.
Summer is
Maybe-
very broad, right? To
Yeah,
your
no,
point,
it
summer
certainly
could be
is. No,
like the end of
that's good.
September.
I think we got some very big problems if it's not done by the end of summer. I think.
Right, I think
More-
so.
More so than what we wrote on the My Dream Playground paper
Yes.
in November.
Another question, what's the mechanics of going back to the survey of collecting the data for the survey? Is it a website that does, a special website, or is this a do-it-yourself?
SurveyMonkey, yeah, so that it compiles everything for you. And we'll get it posted on the town's website and then posted all over social media and ask people to share links and all that good stuff. But it does all the tabulations for you, and you can really drill down into the data
There's
as well.
something whistling in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, huh? So last day to play.
Oh, it's cute.
Oh, I did not know that had happened.
Oh, it's awesome.
Is that you?
Totally fine. I just didn't know. I like this. No, it's really.
Perfect.
just start thinking about how and what we want it to be, and what we want the event of the last day to play. We don't have to decide this today, but obviously we'd have sign-up sheets for volunteer, we'd have information there. Telemedia would be filming it for their documentary. Games, I guess, we would organize, would be some snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got 10 boxes of free cake mix from Stop and Shop for my crazy couponing friends' advice, so I can make cupcakes.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great.
So we can just, and that was just an image that I thought we could, something like that we could use for, online and
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah, that's totally
Yeah.
fine.
Other thing, I'm almost afraid to bring this up, but it might bring in some taking snapshots of kids and even selling results back. I don't know how well that would work, but.
You're talking about like a photo booth type?
Yeah,
Setup
it's just,
type.
Yeah, or just a couple of us there with cameras and we shoot pictures and then we send them. I haven't given this any thought at all as to what really makes sense. Maybe what we're trying to do is get everybody to come so because they come.
Yeah, I think with
Kind of
everyone's
like
cell
you're at
phones-
Disney and they take your picture
Yeah.
while you're at Disney, and if you want it, then you
Splash
have to
Oh,
pay for it.
I see.
Have a
Or the
photographer
aquarium where
come
you
by.
walk in and they.
Well, I've seen this at Christmas parties and things like that, where they have a room and you go in, you meet buddies and get a
Yeah.
group shot.
It's like a
and then-
standard
Yeah.
format for the image, like there's usually like some kind of a
Yeah.
logo or something on it that has the
Yeah.
day and that.
Yeah.
Like Brendan.
Yeah, think about it, and if it's something that you're interested in,
Okay.
you'd be a great person to head that up.
So it was pretty much.
Yeah, I would love to use this as like a fundraising thing, right? Like, you can provide snacks and things, and if you'd like to make a donation, we just
Yeah.
need to definitely check on if you'd like to make a donation, how that all works.
Right.
Ahead of time.
We could
But
sell bricks there.
Yeah. we
Have
can at
the
least
brick
have the
thing
forms.
there, yeah.
And selling pictures may not work as well as simply using them to solicit donations and say,
Well, I would say like, yeah, here's your digital file, would you like, if you wanna drop $1 in the box or something, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so.
It's a pretty neat idea, though.
Yeah, give
Yeah.
us your
Yeah.
email address and we'll send you your picture.
Yeah,
It's just a way to capture
Yeah.
you.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
just hold
yeah,
like a little
yeah.
number with them.
Yeah.
We don't need money as much as we need bodies for
It's
the bill.
right, yeah.
Okay.
So think about it. We're still a ways away, but it seems like it's going to be sort of an event. So
I think
Yeah.
so. I think we really need to get this date nailed down as quick as we can. I know
For the
they're busy
last
with
day.
their RFP and I want them to do that, but we need to be able to.
what happens if we have 3 feet of snow? We just,
Well, then you
for
can
people
bring your
snow.
snowshoes.
Yeah, well,
oh.
Yeah.
yeah, you'll be in your snow gear.
Are they gonna lock the place up?
There's gonna be no fence. They're totally ripping it out, Steve
No,
said.
I saw that was gonna happen in May.
No,
No,
they've
No, they
changed.
changed it.
That
we're
accelerated.
asking for them to wait to do it,
Yeah.
to do the demolition in May, but they want to do it in December
Oh,
or
okay.
into November.
That
Yeah.
answers the question.
So this will be the last chance for people to actually play at the old playground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he ever say anything? I remember I asked him about people being able to go in there and take stuff to recycle it and all that stuff. Was there like a opportunity to have almost like a, hey, maybe the day before they knock it down and say, if anybody wants to come with a wrench and some tools and take whatever you want?
It was definitely brought up last
I mean,
time,
is-
but
Yeah, I don't know what the
know.
liability
Is there a liability there? Or?
There is
he
a
said that he would
liability
provide
issue and
a
also
list.
there is a funding issue because it's town-owned property.
Funding? For funding how?
The town paid for it.
So the town owns it, so we can't just say, you can take it.
Well, I think the first step is that Nick Parley was going to create a list of stuff that could be recycled. So we're waiting on that list. So I guess once we have that list, we can see what our flexibility is with that, if we can.
Right, okay.
Maybe they'll be able to scrap it off the budget or however that works.
Yeah.
for them.
I'm just thinking of rather than it going into like a trash,
Yeah.
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Agreed.
I was just there and there's still like a lot of cool stuff that, somebody could take it to daycare or whatever, or even if someone wants to put
My
their,
kids want that
yeah, if
car.
someone wants the car, if someone wants to put the car in their house, or there's that little log cabin, little house thing
Yeah.
that's totally
Yeah.
fine, that, if
How
they
you
smash
move
with a
it,
bulldozer, it's,
Would you be okay, since you're going to email him about the other thing, would you mind following up
Yeah.
about that inventory list
I
as well?
absolutely will. And the date. I'd like to really confirm. If we had our pick of dates, by the way, because we all want to be available for said thing, is December 2nd or December 9th preferable?
Given how cold it already is, I say we might want to go sooner than later. I don't know how the weather's gonna shake out.
Right, it's December, not January.
The
But,
only issue I have with the 2nd is my husband's a soldier and he's away at drill. So
Oh,
and I have no babysitter. It's-
Well, you'll have
You
the
bring
It
kids
the
there.
doesn't, well, I mean, I will bring the kids, but I will, you know,
If you need
Um,
help.
yeah, I'm saying, like, I'm fine to still do it, I just wanna put it out there, that's my only thing, you won't have my undivided attention to stand at a
Yeah.
cupcake table.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the second or the third, so.
Okay,
So you do?
I have no preference whatsoever.
I can't do the third, we're already committed to a birthday party.
Okay.
Did you
Their-
say you
their
do have a
schedules
problem
fill
or you
up
don't?
I don't, no, I'm.
Yeah, I'm free
as I
that
can
weekend
tell.
too.
So do you guys prefer the second then
I
over
would
the
prefer the
ninth?
second.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanna be able to say, like, could I also kinda lock down
No,
that
that's
and
good.
And that gives
ask
us
for a
month.
commitment?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep.
All right, so, just let's start thinking of ways to make this event manageable and fun.
Yep, absolutely.
So we talked last week about the tree protection guidelines, and I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what we developed in the master plan. And Jim is here, and Jim was instrumental in developing the tree protection guidelines and as well as the inventory. So, Jim, do you want to summarize these, or you want me to?
One of the problems that I'm a consulting arborist, been for over 50 years, and one of the problems I keep running into, particularly in Chelmsford, is construction damage to trees. The library just took down 3 gorgeous trees because they were damaged during construction. Now, the thing is that it's ignorance more than anything else, by designers, by installers, and whatever. They're just not thinking about the damage that's being done. The damage is done, and usually it's a couple years later, and gee, why did that tree die? So I'm very protective, probably overly so. You've got some good trees that are basically irreplaceable.
Is there, well, irreplaceable is tough, I guess, but is it written into the RFP that if one is damaged, well, trying to think, the person providing the equipment is not gonna have any equipment that would damage a tree, or is that all the DPW?
Well,
I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, the
if
person
you
we
work- well,
hire.
It depends on, I would
It's the
assume that the
DPW.
town
It is, okay.
requires
Well,
general liability.
Okay,
Whether the town would go and enforce that, particularly as far as a tree is concerned, and unfortunately, trees in Chelmsford aren't very much of a priority. But if, it's there, they
Yeah.
have liability insurance, it will say if you
Okay.
damage, but they never enforce it. They
Oh.
did the same thing over at the library.
so more importantly, I guess maybe we would have to have the discussion around how would you make sure or ensure the protection of the trees?
Well, this is
And that's what
this
the
is
plan is
attempting to
about.
do.
Okay.
It's trying, basically, it's keep people, equipment, chemicals, and whatever away from the tree.
And this is all being provided during with the RFP, right? And like in the back of
Yes,
it or
it's
whatever?
not- it should.
Yeah, so they'll be all aware of it,
So this is
yeah.
fairly
Okay.
standard. But it you're trying for, the trees are living organisms. They can't speak for themselves.
We're trying to make it clear that they are a priority to us.
Right.
Right.
It's
Now,
basically
Boston
what the,
has a very interesting thing, at least I was the consulting arborist for the public garden. Boston came up with a very nice way of doing it. They, in their contract, would write in, we consider any tree in the public garden worth $30,000. Right up front, you don't like it, you
Yeah.
don't sign the contract.
Right,
And that got some attention. Now,
Right.
whether the Boston would go enforce it or not, but it was a great topic of conversation.
definitely made people actually look at it.
Right, I can't see the Board of Selectmen biting on that
Yeah.
one, but, it's valuable. And again, they're irreplaceable, and they're in fairly good condition. If they're left alone, they'll outlive everybody in this room.
That's not too bad for some of us.
Yeah, I know. But anyways,
Okay.
it's signage, snow fence, which I was not real happy with, but that's what the committee felt comfortable with, that's what Steve committed to. It will be interesting to see what happens.
So Steve actually already committed to all of this?
The 5-foot snow fence, I wanted 8-foot chain link.
This was a very, very, very much discussed topic for the
Yeah.
master
I
plan
understand, I'm just
committee.
trying to get brought
Yes.
up on.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
There was
Steve
much
sat
back and
right
forth.
there, and he said, no, snow fence will be fine. Okay, that's what it is.
The guidelines were part of the master plan
Yeah.
that were accepted by the Board of Selectmen, so it's,
So anyway,
Oh, okay.
but this is what we're trying to do is give a certain amount of protection to the trees.
Right.
Because a lot of times in these cases, the builder, the designer, whatever, no thought at all. Nope, no thought at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll protect it, we'll put a piece of plastic around the trunk. But the problem is, a tree is as much roots as it is top.
Right.
And they had a nice oak tree right over in the corner before they put the fire station in. Town manager, to be protected. Well, yeah, but they cut all the roots off. Had to take the tree down.
Yeah.
No, so, protection, and it has to be done before the damage happens. Once the damage happens, you know, we can hold hands and sing Kumbaya and circle around the tree, but it's not gonna do any good.
Right.
So Jim, aside from the details of this,
Uh-huh,
my perception is that we are or should be concerned that the trees are not really being taken seriously.
oh, absolutely.
And I think that's what we need to figure out, how to get that message established in a way that's, both from the town standpoint, and obviously the contractor would go with the DPW, something, I love the $30,000
Yeah.
figure, but I think, I don't know, Bill, if you have anything to add to this, but it sounds like we need a way to,
Enforce it?
advertise, well, you
Not
put some
enforce,
teeth into
but-
this at some level. You know?
Well, this doesn't put teeth in it, but it does somewhat make it harder for them to operate as they usually do, as thoughtlessly, and that is, with the fence, require bales of hay all around the inside, right against the fence, because a lot of this, a lot of the trees, a lot of the cars and such are not going to be able to climb over the hay bale.
You lost me.
I think she's talking about adding hay bales to the orange snow fence as a way to make sure the orange snow fence does not fall down. If I'm,
And that it doesn't
That
get
it-
pushed over.
that it doesn't get pushed out of the way. That is my interpretation of what you're saying anyway.
In my experience, if they're gonna
Yeah.
go commando on the fence, they're gonna go, the hay bales won't even stop.
And you said, it's like you're more concerned about the roots anyway, it seems
Yes.
to be. Yeah, which
Right, but the
is,
hay bales would be
I'm a
there.
realist.
Yeah.
I can't protect everything.
right.
But these standards give a fairly good chance that the tree will survive and recover.
Because there's gonna have to be some,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I understand that.
with the roots, because,
But what gets me is when the designers come in and they just cut everything down.
right, yeah. And I think we made it clear they don't,
They wouldn't even have most of the trees on the property listed when the designer sat down and started the design.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I think there are, like with the demo, they're gonna have to do what they have to do because things are built so close to the trees as they are that, you know, there is gonna have to be some level of understanding that they may have to get equipment where they have to get equipment.
And in the RFP, they
Well,
have
they
the
can do it
map,
by
right?
hand. I realize, again, that's something that probably the town of Chelmsford doesn't want to do, but you do it by hand.
well, I think that the tree protection guidelines say construction, but I think the thought was that construction included demolition too, so
But it
Right.
doesn't specifically say it.
I know it doesn't, but I think that we need to,
That's
from
the
my
thing that
perspective,
really scares
Well,
me
'cause-
is when they go in.
I think we should
So you're saying
bring
that
it
you're
up with
concerned
Steve
that,
again, but I think it seemed, and I could be wrong, it seemed when this was brought up last week, when that Steve seemed to think that,
It didn't include demolition, but
Didn't
it does. That was the thought behind the creation of this when it happened, but I don't think he saw it that way, but that's why I think we need to follow
So
up.
make sure
If
they
it-
know.
It's done, the tree doesn't really care. You know, if the damage is done during demolition,
Right.
That's not by the company.
you know.
That doesn't matter. But that's all being done by the DPW, right? So you're concerned the DPW is gonna damage the tree,
before
not,
the RFP.
before,
yeah,
not, you're not
unrelated
worried
to
about the
RFP.
contractor that we hire.
Right,
You're worried
or-
about,
There's
okay,
there's a saying in our business that the biggest threat to the health and well-being of public trees is the city engineer.
all right, well, then we gotta have a
And
conversation with Steve then.
That
Yeah.
is unfortunately very true.
Yeah.
So these are the specific guidelines, and the biggest thing is really the critical root zone protection. That's the 12 times the circumference of the diameter of the trunk. So I mean, it's just a matter of pulling, with those, specifically with those trees that are by the fence line, they'd have to pull the fence line out and then mark 12 times the circumference and then put the fences in.
And the benches, which are right
Put
next
the
to it,
snow
and
fence in, and then
probably
just
the.
drive around to do the demolition.
Right.
Well, I mean, some of the.
Some of the equipment is
some of the
within
equipment
12
is
feet,
literally
though.
within 12 feet. I mean, 12
That's, I think, what
times. That's what I'm thinking, like,
he
I'm
was
thinking
saying
like
last week.
little kids
Yeah.
area is
Yeah.
right up against those trees.
Okay.
in front.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think you will have to leave some level of commit to trying to keep the trees as safe as you can, but you're literally gonna have to take that out. With some, you're gonna have to have some sort of heavy equipment to pull out whatever is holding it in
Well,
place.
again, they can reach in.
Right, they don't have to drive over.
Right.
Right, so, yeah, they
With a
could,
crane?
With an excavator.
with that, yeah, they
Or-
could,
or
or go like
they can
around
wrap
this
up,
way and
reach
come
right
back,
out,
and, yeah, it's all on how
wrap
they,
a chain around it, lift it
Right.
up carefully.
right,
You don't have to go all the way up.
right.
Yeah, so I don't know how that conversation is gonna be had with,
I'd like to make a suggestion to that point, and that is a stronger wording, a sentence or two, in the RFP. Now, we're talking about demolition, I understand, the
Yeah.
RFPs for the new construction.
Right.
We should put something in the RFP that says, preservation of the existing trees is a critical part of the contract, of critical importance to the success of this project. It's really not aimed at the company that's gonna put in the brick playground. But that sentence is being put in there by the DPW, who is authoring the RFP. So it's sort of forcing their hand to make a statement in this document. That's how I would approach it. I don't know what the word should be, but if we could say something, if we could come up with, I mean, I think the RFP already references this, right?
Mm-hmm.
alright, but
I
at this
hear what you're
point,
saying, but I think,
You need to say something.
I think that's one of those things that would just get forgotten. That, yes, we wanted it in the RFP, but I don't trust that that would be added.
No, that's where we have to go back to the RFP, as he said, look, we would like to add this, yeah, we could send it to him.
You can send it to me, email or whatever,
And
yeah.
just send him an email the next couple of days, say, look, this is the wording we'd really like to have around for the trees. And that way you're not aiming it directly at the DPW, but you're giving them another message that this is extremely
Mhm.
important.
I think they understand it's important to us. I think we're just,
I think if we ask them to do
On
that and put in the
opposite
RFP, they're
sides.
still gonna compartmentalize it as part of the build and not as part of the demo. That's my guess.
Well-
But I agree in theory, I just don't know that it's gonna have the function that you're.
yeah.
Then we could just go all out there with the day of the demo and just supervise.
Well, I think the more we talk about it and the more we bring it up,
Such another bad.
We
You
just
could.
Chain
Nothing-
ourselves around the, no,
There's
I
nothing
mean,
stopping you from going out there and on the day of the demo.
it's gonna be
It's,
exciting
you
to
know,
watch anyway.
well, I mean,
Probably very
the
cold.
guidelines call for a site supervisor to be responsible for that stuff. So it's just a matter of, I think, us staying on top of that and making
Right.
it a critical point. So,
I have one question. I can't remember the kind of tree that is sitting close to the fence by the bench that has the lower kind of branches that was meant for
Little
climbing.
Linden, probably.
Um,
Really come,
Right next to
Yeah,
the
right.
entrance to the playground.
No, not at the
Oh, it's
Where the two
third one
benches
in.
are? Right
Yeah,
in-
where the two benches are.
Right next to the
Um,
kids, little kids.
I
area?
was wondering whether,
Talking about the one in the lower right corner there? Or the,
Yeah,
I
this guy right here,
There's one with lower, with.
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
that one, we kinda have to,
Yeah, it's low
Yeah.
branch, yeah. I'm assuming we trim it up, right, or no? Or,
well, after
yeah,
things are calmed down and the thing is in, yeah, I think it would be appropriate to get somebody who knows what they're doing as far as pruning, get in and raise it up.
yeah.
See, now, I would love to see a treehouse as part of the structures. And I think the people who put in the trees chose that one because it's an easy climbing type.
You mean back in 1995?
Yep,
They
when
were
the Girl
thinking about
Scouts
this.
chose it.
Oh.
Is that the easiest climbing tree, or is there a different one?
I'd probably go with that one, the linden. It has more horizontal branches, as I recall, on the inside, and that gives
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have concerns about putting a treehouse inside of a live tree. I mean, I could see doing a treehouse on a prefab kind of a thing, you know, that's, but actually in a tree, I mean, it's,
yeah, that's
if
not
if
good for the tree.
if it dies, you lose
Yeah.
the whole structure, you know what I mean? And the chances are that it's gonna take a lot of abuse. But I mean, I like the idea of the treehouse, but I was thinking more in terms of like a
I'm sure
prefabricated
part of the
treehouse.
prefab thing will be, I mean,
They,
if we're
they
talking
wouldn't
about
be,
it.
these guys aren't really big enough
Yeah.
to do it. Because you'd have to open them up so much.
You'd have to take a lot of the tree out to
Right.
do that. A
So,
lot of
make-
it.
I just saw a picture of one of them, one of the things we went through of the natural playgrounds, where the treehouse was about 3 or 4 feet off the ground.
Oh. So not like.
Oh,
up
not
the
like
tree.
in it, not like in the tree.
way up.
Oh, okay, we're all thinking.
But that's at the base of the tree, so your whole root zone thing
You'd have to,
would have to be
you'd have
alleviated.
to be careful the way you design it.
Yeah,
And, well,
but I thought, you
I
know,
was thinking something different.
okay.
Yeah, all right.
Jim, wouldn't it be better to prune those trees before demolition? So they can get the equipment in without hitting the lower branch? I don't know, wouldn't it make it easier, the job easier? Without damaging the tree? Even if we just did a few?
well, if you take a few of the branches, lower branches off, then the line will go higher, nail them too.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking the lower branches are the wider ones, so it gives the tree kind of that wider circumference that they have to go around, so it kind of protects the root system a little more. With the
really
equipment
don't know.
anyway.
I can't predict the future.
But-
It's one of those things you can go either
Yeah.
way,
I agree
but
with what you're saying, Marcus, that
I have.
Yeah, like
gives
they-
more of a standoff
Right,
yeah, it gives it more of
during
a-
the
From
build.
what I've seen in the past, the way these guys work,
They,
I would say leave them alone, and
Yeah.
hopefully, if it's not too much damage, we can get in later on and do
Right.
something with it as far as pruning.
right. Okay.
So this was the inventory that, that Jim did for, pretty much all the trees in the construction areas for the master plan. And, it's not just, the photographs that we just saw were the ones that were on the fence line of the playground, but there's also
Right.
trees on the, a butter side of the playground as well. That I think really need to be looked at again to make sure that we have them as, anything in yellow are trees that were inventoried and should be protected. And anything in red was things that were up for being removed if need be. And you
None
can
of
see
that's in the playground.
we don't have any of those on the, around the playground side, so, I think it's worth, taking a second look at those, because those are the ones that are covered by invasives, covered by bittersweet.
Yeah, but you don't have to cut the tree down to get rid of the invasives.
But I was-
Right, but there were questions about like where the fence was gonna go with that giant big, what is it, oak, or I don't remember what
Right,
it is. There, because right now you have what the theory was of a fence going directly through the oak, but again, I guess there's also gonna be a new
Right,
survey
because
anyway,
we
because,
never lined
we don't
up
know
the
what the-
GPS with the land survey.
right, so we don't
So-
even know where the abutters land
Right.
ends and the oak begins, for all we know.
Fudgy
So, are you of the opinion then that everything that's on that, that property line, the western side of the playground that we inventoried is still healthy and good to go?
Along here,
Yes.
no, you've got a whole bunch of trees that I didn't even put in that should come down.
But the ones that are in yellow are the ones that
Yeah,
you?
I think we should try to save them.
Okay.
And again, it might be possible, it might not, but give it some thought.
So, and I know Steve has said to me in private that they want to remove the apple tree in the front,
This is a domestic apple.
the,
I don't know how old it is. but
Is that
it's
the big one that overshadows the very entrance?
Yeah.
On the outside?
Yeah, the first one you should go in.
and then the two on the lower right-hand side, those two. So those three, they're predisposed to want to take out.
Why?
They say that they're messy, and I'll let them. I was hoping he would be here to talk about this tonight, but we can talk about it again in another meeting.
So from like a
but-
maintenance perspective, is that?
It's nature and it deposits things there?
It's probably been there 60 years.
I'll let them say. I don't. That was just what they were saying, that they wanted those to be taken out. So,
Town has a bias for taking trees out. They went in to clear out, could you back it up once?
Sure.
They went in to clear out some bittersweet along here. They took out some perfectly good oaks, pines, and everything else.
Did some pretty bad butcher.
And they did a bad pruning job on this big guy.
Hmm.
Again,
I think the bottom line is
Because-
probably that. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that I think the bottom line is that we're going to have somewhat of a disagreement on what trees should stay and what trees should go. So as much as we can talk about that ahead of time, and potentially maybe even have a site walk just to say, so we can, it helps to actually see the stuff,
Right.
I don't, from my own perspective, I see the value in all of these trees.
Yeah.
So do I, particularly
Absolutely.
with the whole shade issue. Remember how hot it was that day we did the sidewalk?
Yeah, shade is.
And we were
Yeah.
all like trying to like get near the most.
and the thing to remember is the shade structures don't give you as good a quality a shade as the trees do because they actually cool the air.
Right.
Right.
The
Oh.
question is, if we add all these surfaces we're talking about, how far away from the base of a tree does a surface?
12 times the diameter of the trunk.
Okay. Is there
That's
any?
what should be done.
Right. Is there any other consideration in terms of water runoff or whatever?
No, well, another thing that the town likes to do is overcompact soil. And what happens is you get soil compacted, it doesn't drain well.
Right.
A horticultural soil is about 50% air spaces, 50% mineral matter. And you step on it or you drive over, you don't compact the mineral matter, you compact the air spaces. Now you have smaller air spaces and the water has more of a problem infiltrating into the ground and then percolating through. So it has more of a tendency to run off.
Right. I'm just wondering if we're adding a whole bunch of non-porous surfaces, whether that's gonna affect the trees in terms of, I don't know, drowning them if we have. I don't know. I just think we should
I
maybe
don't know
consider
either.
that if we have a.
But the whole point of this is to put a playground in.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just
So there
saying.
has to be compromises and the trees have to take their chances.
No, I agree. I just
Yeah.
we should maybe take that into consideration in terms
Probably
of.
have to take a look and see what the designs look like.
So before they do the demo, you mentioned doing like a walkthrough, like at the playground. Could we
Good.
have them walk? They could walk us through their demo plan of okay, yeah, here's how we're gonna take the equipment. Here's how we're gonna do this. I don't know. I mean, that's a
Oh,
lot
I
to
don't
ask,
think that
but-
thing gets specifically planned in advance.
Or is it just hey,
We have a
knock it down?
bulldozer.
I mean, at the minimum, we should be prepared to be able to mark the trees that are in the protection inventory,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
I think that is, well, yeah, I would hope so.
And if we don't want to do a site walk to look at the trees that are on the western side of the playground and just say, yeah, those should be protected as well, then we would just mark those
Yeah.
as well, right?
Okay.
Because all of that area is all gonna get, bulldozed out, graded out, because all the top level
Oh,
of the
yeah.
soil is gonna get pulled out, because it's all full of bittersweet.
Right. That's a
Which is
lot.
probably not the best way to handle bittersweet, but that's
That's
another
what's happening.
song and dance.
To the point of it being a compromise, the 3 trees that we know DPW is kind of hoping to take or more keen on taking. And I
I would
believe,
assume it's gonna be this guy here, which is the apple,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this guy here, which is the maple, and I don't know which other one he
It's
wanted.
the
I
next
thought
one
he
over.
said it was the bottom.
The next one's
It's
the
those-
Bradford pear.
And the reason there is that one's been, hacked up a little bit from the last ice storm. So
Yeah.
it's not a pretty
We
trunk.
would probably have to ask who hacked it, but,
I just thought, since you're the expert and we have you here, to kind of maybe be prepared in that idea of compromise. If those are the 3 trees they're hoping to take and trying to understand their reasons, could we have a compromise and say, we don't like it, but if you must take one, take this. Just so we have, no?
Yeah.
I don't
We're
know
the
what
board.
Well, but yeah, but your expertise, there's
Yeah,
no
no,
one
no.
tree better than the other 3 that's like
Which
more
one
healthy or
Is
would
there
last
one
longer
that's least
or
healthy out of those
Yeah.
3?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to ask.
are they all pretty much the
I know it's
same?
really hard to do that. It's like, pick one of your dogs to go with
Yeah.
you. But at the same time, if we're able to sound like we have a reasonable backup plan, if we get a lot of resistance, that might be really helpful.
well, if they have a real reason, then obviously it has to go, but messy?
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in their mouth,
Okay.
so I'll
Yeah,
let them speak for
anyway,
themselves.
You know, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's here, you know?
And I think our course of action would be, listen to what the DPW has to say, listen to what Jim has to say, and then take a vote. And if we feel like if we want to vote on saving all trees or saving, 2 out of 3, we'll take that vote.
Well, we
And-
can take that vote, but they're gonna do what they're gonna do
Right, I don't-
anyways,
Well,
right?
you know,
I mean, I
that's-
thought
I
we
guess
didn't
what kind of
have
power do we have?
Now,
Yeah.
there's another
Well, there's public
thing.
pressure to that.
State law requires before the town removes a tree, they have to have a public hearing. Now, I think they've
Has it
done it
ever-
once in the past 8 years.
I was gonna say I've never
Yeah.
heard of
They,
that,
they
but
just ignore the law.
oh,
But they do have to have a public hearing.
I mean, there's power in recommendations.
Absolutely,
I know,
but
well,
to
I-
hear this and to,
From what I'm hearing is they want to take him down. That's
That was my understanding.
your understanding, so
like you said, the end goal is to build a playground and for us to get the current playground out of there as, safely and
not-
reasonably possible, and then put in a new one within reason. And so I was just trying, and that's something I can certainly talk more with Steve about too, like what are his reasons and, if you're telling me it's because of equipment, if we take down this tree instead of all 3, does that fix the equipment problem?
Those
'Cause I
discussions
wanna
should
see-
really happen here. though.
well, you got some
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying,
railroad
discuss it with
ties,
Steve
I
here.
think,
Here.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
But they can be taken out by hand.
yeah.
So,
The fence, all they gotta do is reach over with a backhoe and pull a post out.
So let's, I think it feels like to me that we're all kind of aware of the issues and sort of know where what the tree protection guidelines are and why they were developed and sort of what's existing. So let's, hopefully have this discussion at a future meeting with the DPW.
Yep, okay.
And talk specifically about, the demolition process and, which specific trees, like I said, we haven't talked about the ones on the outer edge, but we can have that discussion then as well.
Yeah,
Are we
they're
meeting again?
probably less valuable, by the way, the ones on the edge.
Are we
Yeah.
meeting again before the demo? Because
Yeah, that's gonna be something we need to talk
Right,
about.
currently we're not, so we can certainly try to set that up.
So the next slide was the milestones. I need to adjust some of these based on the stuff that the RFP had in it. This we don't need to talk about necessarily today. Next meeting dates.
So we need to work on that December 6th because of the planning board.
Right, we need to cancel that one. Yeah, December 20th. I don't know, do you guys want to try to meet again before the December?
I think we should try to meet again before the demo if possible. So I'm confused. The planning board, does it just mean that because they can't have us live on TV that night?
Right.
So they can't do one of the tape things?
We'd have to get volunteers to come in with cameras. It's problematic.
So what did,
I
like,
guess if our only other option is not having a meeting before the demo, that's the only reason I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I'd
Because
really
anything
like
else is after the demo date we're talking?
Yes. We could, yeah, I mean, I can work around that. I can find volunteers if we need to do it. Are any of the dates next week out of the question or in the question?
Next week is really bad
No?
for me.
no, I'm not.
So
I'm out of
November, none of
town.
November dates would
Yeah.
work then? All right, I will, let's keep the 6th then, and I will find a volunteer to film it with cameras. And hopefully we'll get,
One thing I was gonna mention too, so if, the final day that everyone's gonna be playing at Chelmsford Park is the 3rd or second?
The
Second?
second is
Should
what
we
I'm
get-
gonna ask him to try to
Yeah,
lock
should we do a
down.
rain date of the following weekend then, just in case, or no? Or just if it rains and it's terrible weather, we just scrap it? Because if it's raining and pouring and cold,
No one's
no one's gonna go.
oh, we should definitely do a rain
I
date.
mean, we
for-
definitely
Okay,
need
I'm
a
gonna
rain
ask
date.
then,
Last
I'll
day to
ask
play.
Stephen an email last day today to play December 2nd, rain date,
December 9th.
December 9th.
Yeah,
Will that work for him with his demolition?
right.
How does it work for all of us to be present at the day to play? Do we
December
get
2nd?
into
I can
any-
be there.
No, but I'm saying, does it get into any issues with us all being together? We just don't talk about anything? Are we allowed to be together? I know.
Yeah, no, I don't know either. It's a
I
good,
just
it's a good
wanted
point.
to ask because,
So, we can't deliberate, right?
Right.
At the last day to play.
We can't all talk at the same time together? Is that how it works?
No, we
Like,
can talk,
two
we
of us
just
can
can't,
talk
we can't
and-
talk about, deliberating about issues about the playground rebuild.
all right.
Right.
So we're just
Right.
gonna stick to.
And if you wanna cover our bases, I can post it and then we'll be fine.
Well, I was gonna say, I know for the site visit, you were all pretty much there, right, at the
I
site?
would go ahead and post it just
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
we'll post it,
cover.
that's fine. We can
Okay,
post
so
it.
Cover
if
the
we
bases.
post it, it's
Then
not
we
like
could-
we're deliberating, but if we happen to say
We're in
like,
public
oh,
and people
Yeah.
can
Okay.
come to it, so it's available for.
Right.
And we can
public
post a rain
consumption.
date as well.
Okay.
We just talk politics, and that way it won't be.
So we're gonna keep the 6th,
I just got that.
we're gonna
That's
keep
funny.
December 6th,
Yes.
and then, are we gonna keep the 20th? Or are we gonna decide at the next meeting?
So we had said with Steve's timeline, I had an important note that we needed to look about a date to meet with him after the RFPs have all come in, but before that January date to get our one recommendation to the selectmen. So does the
So-
20th?
No, cause they were
No.
coming the 21st, so we need to meet between,
Kind of the week of Christmas or the 2nd.
so it would be either the 26th or the 28th.
26th or the 28th. I would prefer the 26th, but
I have no particular preference, so I'll go with whatever works best for everyone
Is the
else.
20
it's the day after Christmas. It's a Tuesday.
Yeah, that should be fine. And then the 28th is what, that Thursday? Yeah, I guess either one is fine
You
for
said
me.
the 26th or the 28th?
Yeah.
26th is fine, I guess.
So this is the day that we're gonna meet to, discuss and decide which RFP, which bid we wanna recommend. So we should have the bids by the 21st, and then we'll have reviewed them individually, and then on the 26th or the 28th, we would meet to say, this is the one we want to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just thinking if we're gonna for sure do that date, we may or may not keep that 20th.
Right.
So are those bids public, or are they gonna should be for the 5 of you people to see?
He
I don't know
said
the
he
question.
would post them, but I don't know if he meant publicly post them or post them for just us.
You can share it with other people, or?
I think they're public, but I'll ask.
There should be.
So the 26th, did we?
Yes.
26,
All
yes.
right, sorry. Not a fun time.
7 PM.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
So December 6th and December 26th, and we're going to,
You want to strike the 20th?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
yeah, we don't need
Yeah.
the 20th, yeah.
All right,
that's it.
okay.
Oh, we need to do the minutes.
Minutes?
I think the 9th was the only thing, although you said table instead of tabled.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know if that.
No, I don't always catch all my own errors just because it's usually
Yeah, it's easier to
4
catch
a.m.
other people's errors than
Yeah.
it is to catch your own.
So, okay,
Recording.
so
I think
if I
that's literally
change that, then we're in agreement.
as far as
Okay, yeah, no, thanks for catching that 9th. The 9th will be our rain day with a hopeful of the 2nd. Hopefully Steve will agree to that. Okay. So if we vote to approve them, then I just need to take them.
So
the
we
town
have,
clerk
yeah, so we
tomorrow.
have, and you need to send her a, some sort of electronic format, like a Word document or
Yeah.
something. That'd be fine.
Yep, okay.
And it's town clerk at townofchelmsford.us.
So I don't actually have to physically take them to her. I thought I had to physically take
I don't
them.
think so.
Okay, so change 9 to 2.
So we have October 4th, 2017 and November 1st, 2017 minutes to approve. Can I have a motion to approve those two?
I move we approve the minutes of the dates so specified.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Any other comments or questions for tonight?
Is that the only thing
Can we go
voted
home
on?
yet?
If you make a motion, we can.
Move to adjourn.
Thank
I
you.
second or whatever.
Thank
All
you.
right, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.